Yo, 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 yo. We are back at it again. The number one weekend hip hop podcast in the game. This is the Weekend Rhyme. This is your boy Ron. That's Leroy Green. What's going on, brother?
What's good? What's good? It's a war going on outside. No man is safe from. It's battle arena out here. I'm loving it. What's good?
Well,
What's good?
well,
You know
how
what I
was
mean?
the weekend so far, sir, man? My weekend was comprised of snow.
Yeah.
We had some snow in the ATL, a little different. So
No.
went outside, played with made us some snowmen, you know what I mean? Threw some snowballs, got
Right.
stuck in the house a little bit, but it was a little crazy. And before we get started, before you tell us about your weekend, I want to say our thoughts go out to people on the West Coast, our folks in LA that have been affected by the fires that have been going on out there, man. A lot of people lost things, lost lives, lost homes, have been displaced. So we want to make sure we give a shout out to those people, especially the people that are out there fighting the fires, the firefighters, the first
Yeah.
responders, people out there on the front lines, and the families that are impacted, man. So much respect, much love, and but yeah, man, how was your weekend out there, man?
My weekend was good, man. And of course, I'm just looking forward to new music. It was I was super busy this week, so I got a lot to go over, like a lot. But y'all in the chat, if I missed something, let me know. Like you said, shout out to the people in LA. Check in with your LA people if you know people that live out there. The fires in California is real. I'm from the Bay Area, so but even up here the fires is real. Like, we have to keep an emergency stuff ready to go out the door in case we get a notification, like a evacuation alert, you know what I'm saying? Because the fires be moving so fast that you ain't gonna have all the time in the world to grab your stuff, and you just gotta have some stuff ready by the door. And really, you know it's just a lot to it. Like, you know what I mean? We have certain fires. It's been years out here. Like, Santa Rosa caught on fire a few years back, and there was like, it's certain things that you could see coming. Like, you'll see like a thin layer of smoke around like the ceiling area, but it won't be no fires in your neighborhood, and you'll be like, why is that smoke there? Do you know what I'm saying? Or you'll go outside and it'd be like ashes on the ground or on your car. You'll be like, there's no fire in your city, so why are those ashes there? Or you'll, at nighttime, the night will be kind of like a tinge orange, like orangish look. You'll be like, what's going on with this orange? So there's certain like things you could look out for to know that a fire is on its way. But you know, and it is real devastating. You know what I mean? Like, if you when it's time to clean up these areas in California after they've been hit by a fire, it looks like a bomb dropped. Like, when you go back through these neighborhoods, it's like, it almost looks like a nuclear attack happened. So it's real serious. Shout out to everybody in LA. I hope things are dealt with in a timely manner. But this is what we got to deal with. Yeah,
No
man.
doubt, man. Again, man, we want to give our thoughts and our prayers out to the folks out there in LA and the
Yeah.
surrounding areas that's impacted by these fires, man. Make sure you stay safe. It's deeper than rap, bigger than hip hop. People, make sure you hold your loved ones tight and make sure, you can make sure you stay safe, man. Keep your family safe. But tonight we got a big show. We got a good show. Lot to talk about. We're going to talk about Mac Miller uh posthumously dropping new music, Balloonerism coming Friday. Talk about his legacy a little
Yep.
bit. Also, Two Chains is replacing Fat Joe at the BET Awards. That news came down the pike.
Yeah.
Daylyt responded last week. We want to talk about it last Wednesday, but we had the snowstorm was coming to Atlanta. We had to adjust that show. But Daylyt responded to Joey Badass. Also, Ray
Yep.
Vaughn has put his hat in the ring. We're gonna talk about beef and what makes up beef. What's beef? That eternal question. What is beef? The impact of beef and how it affects hip hop. Professor Lupe is now teaching hip hop, and we're going to get into that a little bit, and also the
Professor
crossroads
Lupe.
of hip hop and artificial intelligence (AI). So we got a lot to talk about tonight. But let's start off with Mac Miller. Mac Miller has a new album called Balloonerism that's about to drop on Friday. I heard the first single from the joint. What was the first single called? I think it was called $5 Pony Ride. What's it called?
Yep.
$5
Yep.
Pony Ride. Let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Five
$5
dollar.
Pony Rides, man. It's a very smooth
Yep.
record, man. As you all
Yeah.
know, Mac Miller, I think he transitioned. I want to say maybe 5 or 6 years ago, at the age of 26. Pittsburgh native, really heavy in the rap game, much respected in the rap game. I mean, he had the album The Divine Feminine. He had Good AM. You had Circles album. You had Swimming.
Yeah.
And now Circles came out after his death, and now you've got Balloonerism that was recorded between the years, I think 2013 and 2015 is what I'm hearing. So Mac was
Yeah.
pretty dope, man. This record is really smooth. It's one of them laid back joints you might hear in the lounge. You know, you smoking a cigar, you at a barbecue. Um, it's funny. I was telling Leroy before we started the show, Mac on a sly level had a little bit of soul with him, man. It was like a little, you hear a little pain in his rap.
A
You know what I
little
mean?
bit.
So a
Sure
little
had
bit
a
of
lot of
pain in his raps, man. You see a little soul and some honesty and some familiarity, and he was a human rapper, man. That you know he
of
rapped with
course.
emotions, and he was just dope, man. So what's your take on Mac Miller? And what are you expecting? I guess what are you expecting from the new album, Balloonerism?
Well, first, we're gonna talk about education in hip hop. I feel like some evolution needs to happen. So also gonna talk about who are the people that's gonna lead that and artistic integrity and why that's important. So how that relates to Mac Miller is, when people look at Mac Miller, if they don't know about him or his music, the first thing they're gonna look at is they're gonna see a white guy. They're gonna, maybe have their preconceived notions, right? Um, there are things that are an indicator when you're listening to rap is if you're listening to a hip hop head or if you're listening to somebody who's just trying to make a dollar, right? So when Mac Miller comes out, I'm super early. I'm around when Kids comes out. So I'm on the blogs, I'm on the internet. I'm super early. I'm hearing early freestyles from Mac Miller. So I'm listening to him rap, and I'm not gonna sit up here and say he's like the greatest rapper of all time. He's very talented, but he's rapping over primo beats. He's rapping over Pete Rock beats. He's shouting out Jazzy Jeff and Easy Mo B and people that he's what I'm saying, and there's a certain delivery there that even though he's a kid at this time, right? But there's a certain delivery that lets me know, okay, like he did some studying of the culture before he jumped in it. It wasn't just he kind of knows what he's doing. He had the Nike song, the Nikes on my feet make my cipher complete. That was the his version of the scratch he put on his song, but you could tell he was ahead is the main point I'm getting across, right? He had a bunch of projects, Kids I Like, Best Day Ever with the Donald Trump song, Macadelic, his debut album, Blue Slide Park. He also had Watching Movies with the Sound Off, The Divine Feminine. But in his music, you can hear this is a real head. Like this is someone who studies the art of production, who studies certain deliveries, certain who was great, certain ways of conveying the music. So today, it was rough. I woke up and I was listening to Fredro Starr actually from Onyx. He dropped a new record, Soul. But even that, it's like when it comes to certain artists like Mac Miller, you'll have people that are just listening on a surface level and they'll be like, okay, he's cool. Then you'll have real hip hop heads that are listening. So they could pick up little things in the music that lets them know that this person is really a student of the craft. And that's what I appreciate about Mac Miller. You know what I mean? So that's why throughout Mac Miller's whole career, I like Mac Miller. Of course, he's a lot younger than I was or I am. So, but I like hearing from the young MCs. I like hearing from the generation under me because I want to hear where they're at. And when I used to hear Mac Miller, it let me know that okay, like some of the young cats, they took what the pioneers left and they studied it and they respected it and they went about their music with the same level of seriousness and attention to detail as some of our pioneers. And again, I'm not going to sit up here and act like he's Nas Escobar, or he's that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is you could hear somebody that's really a student in the music. And he was dope. Like his dope material is really dope. So, rest in peace to him. I know he's looking down, and he's happy with just how people have shown him love over the years. And this is not a guy that's coming in trying to be a vulture off the culture. This is somebody who's doing production for a bunch of different MCs. This is somebody who's down to rap at any time. He's doing the freestyles. He's doing the interviews. He's mixing all the different genres within his rap. You know what I mean? So it's like this is really a music kid. Like he loves music, and that's what I really appreciated about him. So, balloonerism, looking forward to it. And some music is just about the feeling, right? Snoop is about the feeling. Even Fredro Starr, what I was just listening to, that's really about the feeling. Like Onyx was more about the feeling of the music, not so far as you're critiquing this. Is this double entendre perfect? Is every bar perfect? No, you're just going off a vibe. Mac Miller, he had a dope vibe about him. You know what I mean? And it was a vibe of a hip hop head. Like if you've ever hung out with a real hip hop head, they could be they're like, for lack of a better term, like the hip hop nerds or hip hop archaeologists. They're super deep into every little detail of a record. And you could tell that was probably his personality. I never met him, but you could just tell he really loved this. And that's what I appreciate about him. So
He did,
those
man. He
yeah.
did. And when you hear Miller's music, especially his last albums that he made, he was growing into more of a a soulful, more introspective artist, man, with Swimming in Circles. And
Mhm.
this like I said, this $5 Pony Rides joint is in that vein. It's a real smooth joint. And I think about what could have been. I know he's got a joint. I think Madlib was on Sway's show about a year ago and said there was a project that him and Mac Miller did that never got released. That they're putting the finishing touches on. So this is more music coming from Mac Miller. I think the album with Madlib, and then also I don't think he ever got a chance to record it, but they were in talks that he was going to make a record with Post Malone before he died. But man, shout
Okay.
out to Mac Miller, man. Sneakily dope, man. We want to talk more about Mac Miller when Balloonerism drops this week. We'll have a review, and yeah, we'll talk about his legacy a little bit more, man. But let's get into the next topic. Something brief there went across the rounds. Fat Joe has been replaced as the host of the BET Awards by none other than 2 Chainz. Um, I got a lot of thoughts on this, Leroy. What did you think when you heard this news, man?
Some things I'm just finding out about, like as of today. So, that's cool. I mean, Fat Joe, he was the host of the BET Awards for like years, so it's not like he needs to keep doing it. You know what I mean? So if it's 2 Chainz time up to do that, cool. I'm with that. You know what I mean?
Do you
It's
think
all good.
anything? You think anything had to do with the back and forth with Tariq Nasheed and FBA? Do you think the timing of this looks a little suspect? Do you think did that play a role in this at all?
Possibly, yeah. But it's like, do you really love black folks that much? How much do you love black? If you're a black person or you represent a black entity, are you willing to get in a debate with Fat Joe? Do you love black folks enough to have a debate slash argument with Fat Joe? I don't know. I do, but I can't speak for BET or who's talks to Fat Joe or why they do what they do. So to me, it just depends on, well, how much do you love black folks? You know what I mean? That that's all. So it could have had something to do with what he was saying, which I don't have a problem with. And to be honest, it's not like I really have a problem with what Fat Joe was saying. Like, you can be wrong and I don't have a problem with you, because it's impossible. We look for perfectionism. Like, we're trying to find the person that is perfect. I'm letting you know that person really don't exist. So if you're wrong about something, I'm really not tripping. You know what I mean? Like if he's wrong about how he feels about the creators of hip hop, you can be wrong. Like okay, you know what I'm saying? You can be right, wrong, but from his perspective, that's your opinion. So I'm not mad at Fat Joe for having his opinion. Do I agree? No, but do I have to agree? No. Like so it just depends on how you look at it. I think he did a good job at it. I don't look at Fat Joe as a vulture of the culture. I look at him as he's a rapper, just like I look at all the other rappers. You know, they were a part of the culture. And when your time is done to do something, then your time is done. But when you pass it off, though, that's important. If you pass it off to Two Chains, I don't got an issue with that pass off. I feel like Two Chains would do a good job in that position. So you know what I mean? I'm happy for it.
Yeah, I think, again, I think I said this on the show before. I think award shows are a dead
Yeah.
thing, right? I mean, I don't get
One
excited to
second.
see I don't get excited to see award shows, right? I'm not, running to the TV to see uh
Yeah.
the Soul Train Awards or the People's Choice Awards or any type of award show. I'm not really, that's not
Yep.
my thing. You know what I mean? So this news doesn't really move the needle for me, but I do think Two Chains will do a good job. He's got a lot of personality. He hosted a show called Amazon Music on Amazon Prime after Thursday Night Football for a year or so. So I don't know if he still does that, but I don't know. I've got a feeling about artists hosting award shows. Anyways, I always thought comedians should do it. Comedians or models or professional hosts. I think artists shouldn't. If you're an artist, you should be focused on your music. I think that dilutes the aura of a musician as an artist. Maybe if you're older, maybe, but I would think Two Chains is still, kind of
But the
relevant.
aura's gone. I think the aura. How do you have an aura with social media at the same time?
Right, but I
Like,
think
how does that work?
you diminish it further when you host. Like you would never see. I hate to say, let's just use this. You would never see James Brown host an award show. You would never see Michael
Okay.
Jackson host an award. It takes away from
Okay.
the aura of the artist. You never see Beyonce host an award show. You never seen
I
Taylor Swift
mean,
host an
you're
award
naming
show.
like some of the greatest artists of all time, period. But I mean, somebody who's not the greatest of all time,
But
you know?
I think the host should be professional hosts. It should be comedians. It should be, models, whoever, people, radio
Yeah.
people, whoever.
I, I'm
They
mad at
should
that.
they should have those gigs. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my thoughts. But shout out to Two Chains. I think he'll do a great job. Again, I'm not going to be tuning in, but it is what it is, man. But let's get to the next topic. And I do
Well,
think it's
hold on. My thing with Two Chains is though is he is a great rapper though, and he never really he did but didn't. The hits are there, the fame is there, the impact is there, but he never went over the top like with a smash type of album or record. And he's very capable. If he wanted to come out here and just be a hip hop legend, he's very capable. He knows how to step to the mic and make that happen, and he never really did that. And I maybe he's one of those people who they're just not tripping. They're not tripping off being super big, so they don't care. But it's a shame because he has that ability though. If he wanted to come out here and be a super legendary superstar rapper, he could do that.
I mean, Two Chains had his time. I mean,
I
you
mean,
talking about, you had, you know, Boat, what I'm saying? They came out, you know what I'm saying? Um, I mean, he had a lot
I
of
mean,
records.
he
I
has
mean,
his records.
he had big records out, you know what I'm saying? You had
Right,
Birthday, you know what I'm saying? You had a lot of joints, you know what I'm saying? I remember when
right.
Cody and Cowboy came out, that mixtape, came out. I'm riding around and I'm getting it. He got a lot of joints, man. Stuff with Kanye, even when he was Titty Boy.
Yep.
So Two Chains been popping for a long time with Player Circle, from when he was working with Luda, from then to Kanye. So
He
he had
also
a
has
time in the game where Two Chains was killing it, man. Two Chains was on features, working with Wayne, the 2 hours with Wayne, working with Nicki
right.
Minaj. So he had his time, and I think he broke through as a star. But I just think hosting
Yeah.
duty should go
No, he
to
did that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think hosting duty should
As
go to
far as like,
comedians.
yeah, I mean, when you think of Atlanta, right? And I'm just talking any place. You could pick California, New York, or whatever. But for the sake of argument, we're saying Atlanta. You have certain superstars. The Migos were superstars. Ti is a superstar. You feel what I'm saying? Now, if Two Chains wanted to go the Ti route, he could do that. It's not a big leap for him to do that. You know what I mean? So
Right.
if he wanted to go the ludicrous route, he could do that. It's not a big leap for him to go from Two Chains to Ludacris.
Now, when we talk
So,
about record sales, when we talk about record sales, Luda obviously would have 2 chains, but as far as, in Atlanta, I would think, just being in Atlanta, from what I understand, this is a good question. We might need to poll it one of these days. I think 2 chains is held in
uh,
high regard as far as the
oh no,
rap
he is.
music than Ludacris at the moment.
But that's why I'm saying it's not a huge leap because you're
Right.
already, as far as public opinion goes, you already there. So now all you need to do is drop some records that the suburbs dance to, and now that's a whole different game. When we
Right.
talk about the streets, you already there. So that's already in the bag anyway.
Right.
That's what I'm
Right.
saying. Like it's not a big leap. He needs some dance record that the teenagers can vibe with, he's on a totally different playing field. You know what I mean? It's just like when it come to bars, right? Because to do these things, you need to have bars. Why do you need to have these things? Because if you get caught in a situation where you're in the studio on a certain night and a certain producer walks in, you want to have bars. So that way when he puts on the beat, you can deliver right there and it's on point. Well, certain people like Two Chains, Saha the Prince, they could do that at will if they want to. Yeah, I mean, so it's like, so I always leave the door open for someone like a Two Chains if he wants to go up to another level because he has the skill to do that. Is all
Yeah, and
I'm
that's
saying.
what I'm
You
saying.
know what
That's
I mean?
why I think he should be receiving awards instead of hosting them. So I think again, let the comedians,
Okay.
let DC Two Fly, let even an old school comedian like Eddie Griffin, let somebody else, let somebody else host these shows, and you receive your awards.
All
Because
right.
I think 2 Chains is underrated as an MC, and we need to appreciate what he did for the game because he came in at a time where he kind of
No
was the
doubt.
glue. He was a bridge between generations of Atlanta rap. You know what I'm saying? He kind of was the bridge between the old era, when we was a Player Circle, when Ludacris and Ti, when you had
Mm,
Rocco, you had Jeezy, you had OJ the Juice Man, you had all these people, you had Gucci. He was kind of like the link between that and then the QC run, that they talked about on Monday's show. So
yeah.
2 Chains doesn't get a lot of credit for what he did. And this stuff he did with Wayne was dope. College Grove 1 and College Grove 2. He got dope
No
music.
doubt.
And as OJ Weston said in the chat, he got that music and he's a certified legend, man. But you wanted to cook up about something else, man. Lupe Fiasco, I believe, has a teaching job as a professor at what school is he at? What university?
He's going to be well. He's at MIT, but he's also going to be a visiting professor at John Hopkins University in Baltimore.
Well,
He's also yeah.
cook on that
Cook
for a
on that.
second. Cook on that for a second.
I'm really here for the battles. That's what I'm really
Let's
here
talk.
for.
Let's talk
But
about
I'm
Lupe
here
for.
for the
Let's talk about Lupe for a
yeah.
second. Talk about what he's doing, and then
Right.
I want to ask you a
Let's do
question
it.
about the. I think he's getting a hip hop studies major. And
Yeah.
I was watching another show. I was watching another pod the other day, and it was talking about
Yeah.
one of the people that were watching the show had a question like, what's the value of a hip hop studies degree? Like, what can you do with that degree? You know what I'm saying? Is it a
Right.
competitive
And
degree?
that's my job. That's
So
my job to bring value to what that type of degree would do. And like when I say my job, right? Of course I'm making it singular. But what I mean is our job as a culture. Why is having knowledge on hip hop valuable? Why? And how could you make money off that? What what does knowledge of selling human artistic art, how does that make money? So that's the question, right? So Um, Lupe Fiasco, he's a professor at MIT, and the reason why this is important is because I wear this hat and I wear this sweater almost every episode. I could easily change clothes every episode, have a different hat, have a different sweater, jacket. I'm from hip hop. Being fresh is not a tall leap. That's just regular. You know what I mean? But why am I continuously showing up in this garb? Right? It's because I believe that the next evolution of hip hop is education, is technology, is performative arts, is movie theaters. So there are multiple things that I think hip hop has room to do. So Lupe is a professor at MIT, right? This particular thing, which they are creating a hip hop undergraduate degree, but of course those lead to an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, etc. Right? Um, this is going to be for music students, right? MIT is not just for music students, but this one at John Hopkins is going to be for um, music students. And you're right, everything ain't for monetary gain, right? So when we did put a price tag on hip hop, it did let a lot of people in that we were unaware of, right? So this is why it's very important that certain people are at the forefront of education or at the forefront of technology. So we're talking Lupe here. So Lupe is going to be a John Hopkins, right? So what are we talking about? Well, he's going to be talking about music. He's going to be talking about rhymes. He's going to be talking about storytelling. He's going to be talking about songwriting, because he's talking to music students. But my thing is this, right? In hip hop, well, how many different disciplines does hip hop encompass that a person that is going for their degree also has to master, right? So, in my opinion, I think that when we talk about hip hop, we're also talking about like sociology, right? If you get a sociology degree, well, then you are familiar with social studies, social issues, social programs. I feel like that's in hip hop culture, as well as communications, right? A communications degree, as well as business marketing, right? What I
Right,
mean, the
right,
reason rappers they do business marketing. That's how they get their music to you in a fashion to which you can accept and use something familiar with. They do business marketing, also psychology, right? And in a lot of the schools you have certain schools in tough areas, right? I know a professor down in Long Beach, right? A hip hop professor. He makes music, but he's a psychologist for trade, and he works in Long Beach. This is a tough area. This is where gang violence is, a thing. This is where a lot of the students are tough kids. How do I relate to this tough kid? Right? And I make this kid understand how valuable his life is to me and to himself, right? When all he sees is a certain environment. So again, psychology is there. Legal studies and entertainment law, right? Because in hip hop, you're dealing with just your likeness, your voice. We're going to talk about AI in a minute. You're dealing with your intellectual property. You're dealing with your the value of your music, etc., etc. How you collaborate with others and everything. So entertainment law. There are many things that hip hop encompasses besides just how to write a rhyme or what beat to pick and how to be in pocket. Videography, criminology, graphic design, sound engineering, pharmacology. How many different things does hip hop touch? As an artist, how many different topics do we touch as an artist? If you think about your favorite artists, we got a lot of Nas heads in the building. I'm a Jay-Z, I'm a J head. You got Ice Cube heads, you got Common Sense heads, KRS-One, Wu-Tang Clan. How many different topics and different interdisciplinary studies do they really cover? So I think that a hip hop degree, I do think is very valuable for a person that is planning on going into business marketing, that's planning on going into something that requires some sociology skills, some communication skills, some, so it's not just the performative arts aspect. There is a lot of business headway. Lupe is just dealing with the music for now, but we need somebody that we know has a reputation in music to kind of push the ball forward in music and education, and we know Lupe for doing that. So I don't know why some people have an issue with Lupe doing what he's doing. Some people feel like you shouldn't be teaching to people from the suburbs, right? Or people from a different walk of life. But hip hop, even though it is a black art form, it's a black culture, but do we just keep it just to us? Or does it grow out into other walks of life? We just talked about Mac Miller, right? It has room to grow, and that's our special power. Is we take our stories, our struggle, and we reverse it to something positive for humanity, period. So there is a lot that I think hip hop can do in the education world. And, I'm all for that. So I support Lupe. Lupe is also a professor, Pendulum Inc. You know what I mean? 2025. If you want to step into a Lupe class and ask him a question, I don't know when he's going to be there this year, but I know he's going to be there. But if you would like to ask Lupe a question or get his take on something, get it. But I think there's room for that, and I think it must happen. You know what I mean? So I'm proud of Lupe for doing that, and I'm just proud of hip hop, man. And I think it encompasses way more than just rhymes and beats. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic. I got a couple ways I feel about it. I might take a different path than you do. I do think it's important to study all type of arts, right? I went to a performing
Yeah.
arts high school, so I understand the discipline of learning literary arts,
Hmm.
culinary arts, performing arts, jazz is a dance. I know there's people that I know people that are in the business of they're dance nurses. They use dance as movement therapy, and there's a medicinal dance and things like that to kind of help their patients through movement
Right.
heal. So I understand there's all types of different disciplines. I always thought that music history can all be rolled into one. You can study the roots of rock, country, folk, Americana, grassroots, classical,
Mm.
and also hip hop, right? So I do think there's always a value understanding, studying our culture and study the music. But I don't know. I wouldn't, and I'll take a different approach. I would probably take it as an elective. You know what I'm saying? If I was in school, but I don't know if I
Yep.
would necessarily major or I would recommend my children major in hip hop studies. You know what I'm saying? I would say yeah, take it as a major, maybe as a minor, but I would think there's other degrees that you can get that education through other disciplines, especially if you're paying a lot of money for your education. I would recommend, you know what I'm saying, doing
I got
something
it.
that's just doing something else. But I do think what Lupe is doing is dope. I would like to see maybe an online class, see the syllabus, see the
Yeah, but
curriculum, and
but
see what
we,
he's teaching. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
not to cut you, but we are of hip hop culture. So the only people that knock down hip hop is actual people from the culture. You have to understand, the rest of the world is open to hip hop. The colleges, universities, they would love to have hip hop there. They're not going to be the ones that's stopping it or hating on it or trying to push it down. It's going to be us well, who does Lupe think he is? Well, you can, you know what I mean? So it's going to be us that knocks each other down. It ain't going to be them. So I'm just saying, like, at what point do we stop? Do we not knock each other down? You know what I mean? Because they're accepting of the culture. Now, what you're saying is correct, which I don't have a problem with, because I can understand that thinking. And at this stage, you are correct. As hip, when you go into a business meeting nowadays, you're speaking to people that are from hip hop culture, even if they're not. What I mean is, when you look across the desk and you see the 40-year-old guy who or 50-year-old guy who is the brand marketing of a company or whatever, he may not be from the culture, but ever since he was a little kid, he grew up on NWA, on Wu-Tang Clan. Or do you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
He's very familiar with what we're talking about. So he's open to it once you crack a certain surface, you know what I mean? So we gotta salute certain things, and we gotta realize the potential growth. Like I said, when it comes to be when you have to be a artist, you have to master all the studies. You have to master mathematics. Because if you don't master mathematics, how you gonna get your money right? You gotta master reading and writing because you're an artist and you're doing deals. You gotta master even a science in a social type of way. A social science is what I'm saying. Because you're interacting with people all over the world. You have to know their history, how you interact with different countries, different walks of life. So hip hop is much more broader than somebody who's just purely a biological engineer. If you're going to school because you want to be a biochemist, no disrespect to that, you have to be uber intelligent to be a biochemist, right? But that same level of intelligence that it took for you to master all the different chemicals that you using for biochemistry and different things like that, hip hop requires that same type of mind if you're really serious about it. You know what I mean? In my
Yo,
opinion.
I think Lupe
Mhm.
jumped in the chat. What's up, Lupe? Professor Lupe, Professor Fiasco. What's good, brother? We like for you to hop on, man. If you wanna hop on and talk about
No.
your
Yeah.
your,
And
your
shout out to
class,
Lou. You
man.
know what I
You
mean?
know what I'm saying? Shout out to you, man. We like to sit in on the class, man,
Yeah.
and but yeah, that's a dope. It's dope. It's dope. But
Here, here's why the Lupe factor is important because certain ground is going to be broken no matter no matter how we feel. So who do we want to break that ground, right? So we're going to have to pick. Now again, we're looking for perfect. Let me find the perfect person. Nobody is going to be perfect. We're just looking for somebody that is great at what they do. We all know Lupe is great at what he does. I mean, we kind of know that, right? So why not have him go into this space and teach in a way that has a lot, that he's putting a lot on the table? Why not? Because we already know he has the skills to do that. We know he has the background to do that. So what's the problem? You know
I
what
don't
I'm saying?
I don't see one. I think Lupe's in the chat. He wants to know if you have any specific questions about the course, about what he's doing as a professor, and what he'd be teaching the students and the pupils.
Yes.
You got any specific questions for him? So he can respond to them.
Um, the only one question I would have for him, because Lupe, he got so much on the table that we could ask him questions all day, right? And I will reach out, later on to have him on and speak for himself. But is there anything aside from just the hard rhymes and beats that you're gonna go into? Are you gonna go into the history of hip hop? Are you gonna go into just different lanes that hip hop music bleeds over into, as far as like technology or certain things like that. You know what I mean? That's all. But I mean I trust Lupe has the skill to do what he says he's gonna do. You know what I mean? So I'm all right with it.
Well, let's go to our
You know?
next segue, and let's go to our next
Yeah.
segue. It kind of goes into that AI and hip hop, right? So AI is going to
Right.
be a major player. There's an arms race in artificial intelligence right now. I think it's been going on for a long time. We just didn't know about it. They've been building this ecosystem of artificial intelligence for a while. You've seen it in movies, you heard it in music. This is nothing that just
Yeah.
came out of nowhere, right? We always think, oh, this is some new stuff. They just sprung up on us. They've been working on this. Trust me, I know in labs
Right.
for the last for decades, right? So now we're
A
starting to
generation.
see it. Yeah, we're starting to see it proliferate in the mainstream, and now AI is not going to permeate through music. What are your thoughts about AI in the intersection of hip hop, and what is it? How can we, as a community, prepare for it? And what do we need to do to be, how will it
Yeah.
impact music, artists, and the culture as a whole?
Now, if we remember when I first even showed up on this channel, I was saying, well, the reason why I'm harping on literary devices is because if you do it in a certain way, an AI can't predict or figure out or copy what you're doing. So I was already there. You know what I mean when I spoke about these things. However, with the AI thing, see, it's already here. And the one thing about Lupe, which I brought up already, is because I was on IG with him, and he was talking about this. He didn't see me, but I was just in the comments, is what I'm saying. And he was talking about this because some people had a concern about this issue, right? I'm from the Bay Area. I'm from Silicon Valley. Before social media got here, I already knew it was coming. Before Twitter got here, YouTube got here, I already knew it was coming. So some things we have to know is coming, whether we like it or don't like it or feel a way about it. It's already here. You know what I mean? So again, who are we going to have go into this space and kind of be at the forefront of certain technologies, right? Because I feel it's important. Imagine if we were at the table when when major labels in hip hop were forming, right? If we were at those tables, I'm talking about a lot of our great artists, then the circumstances would be a little bit different. So I'm saying, why not be at the table of this new tech revolution, of this new way we're going about things? Why not? Why not be at the table? You know what I mean? So I don't have an issue with it, but I could see the concern because people are thinking, okay, we don't want to be a John Connor to Skynet, or we don't want to help Skynet when we're supposed to be John Connor. Is was what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So, but again, I think things are already here. Lupe, he worked with Google for text effects, and people were saying, well, text effects is going to write rhymes for you. Well,
So
technically, no.
what is text effect? Explain to people that don't know what that is. What was text effects? What is that?
So text effects is it's a model for different ways of writing. So I could take two different subjects. Let's say I take nature and mathematics, and I want to combine the two to make a topic. Or I take a word, artificial, and I want to make an acronym for the word artificial. Or there are a bunch of different things I can do with the different tools at the system's disposal, but it does not write rhymes for you. That's the main thing I was getting across, that people were thinking that a machine was going to you were just going to type in a subject and it was going to pump out a verse for you. That's not what it does. You know what I'm saying? So we got to be think about what we're doing here. Let me read a few comments. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna pull him up because Lupe, he wanted to
yeah,
clarify a few things. Let me pull him up real quick. The first one he
yeah.
said,
Look,
"You want to go
come
ahead and
come
read?
on the show, bro.
Go ahead and read them.
You know
Go
what I mean?
ahead and read them, Leroy."
Okay. I do not teach hip hop culture. At MIT, I teach history of styles, modern techniques, and novel ways of thinking about creating rap, along with the way we touch on all relevant topics to the course. Makes sense. Sounds great to me. Two, at MIT, my students are not necessarily interested in pursuing a career in music, even though they have a passion for it. At Peabody, the students are directly interested in pursuing a career in music. So, again, on both accounts, I think is great. And I think there is room for a lot to be learned. So, and in other words, I would just say at this regard, I think we should support someone like Lupe in these endeavors. I don't think that we should be trying to knock him down or knock down these efforts, because if it was somebody else doing it who we don't like or don't think is talented, okay, that's fine. But someone who we know has these things, has these skill sets unlocked, why not? And again, I'm not looking for perfectionism. I'm not looking for the perfect human being to do things. I'm just looking for somebody that has most things right in a certain skill set. That's all. You know what I mean? So
No doubt.
I'm looking forward to it, and if that's Lupe, I congratulate Mr. Fiasco. Shout out to you. Shout out to Sosa. TRP, that's a friend of mine. He's in Sosa. Chilla Jones, friend of mine again. Pendulum Mickey Fax. That's my brother. So Lupe, we here for that. You know what I mean? And we just want to do what we can do to support that. And again, we don't have to agree with everything, or we don't have to. If we have questions, we'll just ask. You know what I mean? Some people act like they can't just ask the question. If you have a question, well, why not just ask and see what the answer is before you just jump out the window? Oh, this person must be doing something nefarious or something negative. I don't agree with that. You know what I mean?
No, and I think
So,
there's a sister in Atlanta named, I think her name is Dr. Jocelyn Wilson. She's been teaching hip hop. I think she taught an Outcast course at Georgia Tech or the
okay.
AU, somewhere at the AUC. So hip hop education has been around for a very long time. But it's interesting to see artists like Lupe and then D1, I believe, and I believe there's
Hmm.
somebody else taught a I think somebody else taught a course too. I don't know if it was Swiss, it was somebody else. But let me get back to this AI and hip hop because I think there's a couple things I want to kind of unpack here. Number
Okay.
one, I do agree with you what you're saying. I do think we need to be in the forefront of technology. All of our community, learn about
Hmm.
coding, uh, get engineering degrees, learn about software engineering, app development, those skills that you're going to need to compete in the future. And AI is going to be one of those, right? So if you don't want to code and build the actual learning engines behind AI or the actual work on the databases, you can get a degree in management, become an AI manager. So be a project manager within AI space. You know what I'm saying? Get into those space so you can get your foot in the door so we can be in those rooms and we can speak forward. Now, in terms of music, we
Right.
kind of get into a slippery slope when we talk about AI and the convergence of music, because I know a lot of people were kind of clowning. A couple years ago, there was some Jay-Z songs that came out that were AI generated. Then Biggie had a few, and I know Timbaland said he was working on some things where he was going to work with, try to take some Biggie vocals and kind of create
Right.
some new sounds. And there was a lot of backlash with that. And then the most recently we saw with Drake, when he took the voices of Snoop and Pac, there
Right.
was back. Even though I thought it was somewhat creative, they thought it was out of pocket. It was a misstep. He actually pulled a record from social media and social platforms. But I do think when we talk about AI and music, there could be the benefits I see is like using like the metaverse and creating like concert experiences that are
Yeah.
mixed with the human experience. But if we start talking about beat generation and lyric generation and song generation, we're removing the human element of music.
Right.
That's the most, to me, that's the most important ingredient of the art, is the artist and the actual human that's making it. So even
No
when we
doubt.
talk about films, and I hear that Tom Cruise is going to be going to sign like a 50-year deal. So even after he transitions in the physical form on Earth, he'll still be making movies for our great
Yeah.
grandchildren and our grandchildren. I don't know. I think AI kind of removes the um
I
the
hear you.
human element of the art, and I think that's a slippery slope. And I
Yeah.
heard about AI producers, man, throwing a loop, pulling some records out, loading them up, and then taking those loops and then creating a beat out of that. It kind of takes a spirit. So we talk about a Pete Rock or a DJ Premier or a Mad Lib or you know what I'm
Right.
saying, or an Alchemist. And
I
you
got you.
take it, a
Yeah.
computer can't mimic that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where
Yeah. Yeah.
we get into a dangerous slippery slope, man.
And I understand those concerns. You know what I mean. One thing I would say is, and I'm going to read some more comments from a Lupe here, but just what I would say, like, picture you making a poem, song, or movie script or whatever about the first girlfriend you ever had, right? Or your high school sweetheart. Now, if I write a song dedicated to my high school sweetheart, an AI can't really do that as well as I can do that. Do you see what I'm saying? So there is some separation there. Now, maybe somebody thinks they can, but if I'm talking about my high school sweetheart, that was a real experience to me that I have real life I can draw upon. The AI is drawing off imagination, or you know what I mean? So there are certain things that it's not going to be able to do as well as we can do. Um, Another comment in the section from Mr. Fiasco. I have a separate institute of my own called Society of Spoken Art, so SOSA, that it introduces rappers to the fields of linguistics, communication theory, and language to show rappers what they are doing, which is also very important. The what am I doing in terms of identifying certain techniques, certain ways of communication, and certain forms of storytelling, etc., which I feel is very important. Metaphors, that's what I specialize in. But these are all very important tools. Two, Mickey Fax, IT, Chilla IT, D1, all come from or are affiliated with Society of Spoken Art. Again, we have people that love the culture, is what I'm saying. So the main pointing I'm getting across, right, with my specific talking points, is when it comes to hip hop, no matter what we do, the world is going to come in to the culture. So we can either pick, do we want strangers to come in, or do we want somebody who we already kind of know and already have built a certain reputation? So we're going to have to pick. When it comes to a Lupe Fiasco, we may not know everything about him, but we know him to a degree because he has a reputation in hip hop culture. So I would rather we deal with someone who we kind of know versus dealing with somebody or people that we don't know at all. Do you follow what I'm saying? So that's the thing, and somebody who actually cares enough about the culture. This whole conversation sprang up from, I saw a post with him talking about endless loop. It was something he's working on, in conjunction with a AI technology,
Now, what's
right?
that? And explain it to the people that don't know what that is. What is that?
Okay, I mean, I would love Lupe to come on and explain it, but it's going to be putting together um, music for him or material for him that will broadcast in the middle of nowhere, so most of us will probably never hear it, right? But it's just that's what he is creatively working on now. That I may have not explained that perfectly, but you kind of get the gist of Lupe, an artist, a rap artist, working with technology, right? So you can just keep that with just Lupe, or you could say most of us as artists, or artists that are really in the game that are working with technologies. I'm all for that because it's going to happen whether we sanction it, don't sanction it, whether we are emotional about it. It's going to happen. So why not just, what I mean, support somebody who has a reputation in putting out great music in this culture? That's all I'm saying. That's all. A five, Mr. Fiasco. In my class, I teach that human creativity rides the back of technology and vice versa, and that you must find the balance that makes you most comfortable, from turntables to DAWs to AI, in which I also agree with. You know what I mean? There is a balance there. It's a tool. If I put technology in your hand, right, you could either do something great, or you could not or you could not do something great. It really depends on you and what you have the capacity to do and your own imagination. If you don't have a good imagination, well, even if I hand you the technology, you're only going to do so much. The same thing as if I hand you a pen and paper. If I hand one guy a pen and paper, he's gonna he may not make nothing great with that. If I hand another person, if I hand Lupe Fiasco a pen and paper, he's going to churn out something amazing with that pen and paper. So all I did was hand him the tools, is what I'm saying. You
No
know what I
doubt,
mean?
no doubt, no
Yeah.
doubt. I didn't want to cut you off, but Lupe jumped in for a second. He's gonna try to jump right back in. But he
Okay.
jumped on. He jumped on for a second, but he dropped. He said he'll try to jump back on. But yeah, it's very
No doubt.
interesting, and I don't want to be hypocritical, hypocritical, because I bought my daughter a Newmark kind of beginner DJ turntable set, right? And I wanted to kind of as a hobby learn the art of jumping on the ones and twos, right? And I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
I'm trying to
No
put
doubt.
together a set. So I'm like, and I'm talking all this shit about, you know, human being honest, right? So I look on my computer, I'm
Right.
like, yo, it's gotta be an AI tool that can tell me, my BPMs, how to mix, my transitions. And it was actually a
Right.
tool where it kind of built my set. It built my set list, you know, you know what I mean? So I can
I mean,
understand.
hey,
And so with his point about you have to it's a marriage between the human, but I had to feed that program some
right.
data. I had to
Right.
say I want to play uh um um Lady Cab Driver, right? By Prince, right? What can I mix that with? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Give me a 45-minute set built off Lady Cab Driver and you know what I'm saying, some other Prince records, you know what I'm saying? And just kind of mix it, you know what I'm saying? And it spit out and it gave me a hell of a mix. And I might debut that.
Yeah.
I might
I know what
debut
you
my
mean.
mix. I might do that. I might do that. He
I
got
know.
another drop.
Okay, none of that. So you'll make different verse if you use a pen and pencil. The tool will affect what you create. Even something as simple as pen versus pencil. And that's true. You know what I mean? That's true. We are getting down into specifics. I make beats. Are my beats fire? No. So you know what I mean? I can admit that. I sit down and make a beat. They're cool, but they're not like super fire, right? So if I had a tool that could help me maybe get the timing better, help me maybe come up with different drum programs, different patterns, come up with the right key, because I struggle with what key am I in, right? Because I'm not a musician. I just plug in my beat machine and I just bang away at the beat machine, but I'm not a professional. You know what I mean? So there are things that we can learn that will just make us better at what we do, and I'm all for that. You know what I mean?
And
And
we all learn different. We're coming into an age where my children will learn differently, whether wrong or right, will learn differently than I did, right? I was more of a go to the library, get books. You know what I'm saying? Now everything is on the Chromebook or the MacBook or the iPad. And my wife, we're different learners and different retainers of information. She's more of a tangible person. Like she likes to write things down and
right.
communicate. So she'll write a grocery list out, right? I like to put it in my phone. I like to say, hey
Hmm.
Alexa, make me a list. You know what I'm saying? I'm more on that type of time. You know what I'm saying? So again, I think it has to be we need to be. I saw somebody in the comment section said we need to be on the forefront of it, of us in the culture controlling it. And I think this is a good opportunity. When I take a step back and look at it, I don't understand why the critics are upset. I haven't even seen many critics that are upset about people of the culture teaching hip hop. I think we need that. You know what I'm saying? Because we would have a problem if somebody else was teaching it. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's
Yeah.
an opportunity for us to take our culture and kind of expand it and have people that are not of our culture learn about it and then respect it in a different way.
Right. Well, I feel like is a certain a responsibility there, and people are looking for a certain level of responsibility. But again, we could either trust people that we kind of know, or we could just let anybody in here, strangers, who we don't know and see what they do. But the capacity to do something constructive versus something harmful, that's always going to exist no matter what, right? If you get behind the wheel of your car, you can be very destructive if you don't know what you're doing. If you are constructive, well, then you get to where you're trying to go safely. So there are, no matter what, is it always requires some level of responsibility when you put a tool in somebody's hand. You know what I mean? That just is what it is. He says pencils can be erased, pens can only be scratched over. Pencils, you'll have more, you'll be more free. Pens, you'll be more contemplative before you write something down. I have my students focus on these subtleties, and that's very important. That's and I would also agree with that. Intention. Um, I used to just write raps until Mickey Fax was like, have some intention before you go into writing. That really does help. You know what I mean? Versus just writing raps. You know what I mean? And again, I do not teach hip hop. I teach rap. So you may have to explain that one. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
you need.
I got a question about that one, Lupe. If you can, when
Yeah.
you get a second, try to hop back on. I got a question about that because I know the
Right.
difference, right? When we talk about hip hop is the five elements is a culture, right? So he's not really teaching that. I think what he's saying, he's teaching the intricacies of composing a rhyme, structuring bars.
Mm,
Leroy, you would know more about being a student of Pendulum, how that goes. But
yeah.
I wanted him to kind of explain that distinction of what's the difference between teaching hip hop and rap and how those disciplines,
Yeah. Well,
well,
I think he just means the art of of just rapping, of song making. Um, I forgot what I was thinking about earlier, but it had to do with delivery, and it'll come back to me what I was talking about, thinking about. But there there is all kinds of techniques and things you need to know as an MC. And I know there's songwriters out there. You know what I mean? Like some of y'all in the chat or some people watching, I know that you got studios or you have made songs before. I know that some of you are artists and you know that there are certain techniques, there are certain know-hows that you must know how to do in order to craft a good song. Certain things like relaxation, for example. A lot of times you'll have a guy who's just learning to rap and he's rapping his heart out. He's you see his neck muscles flexing. He got his arms into it. He's sweating in the booth. He's rapping his heart out. Well, if he knew to just relax and focus on the pronunciation, well, now when you relax, you actually have more control over your breath, right? Versus you just going in with your full muscles into your lungs. When you relax, now you have more control. So there are certain techniques that yes, you gotta know, or else you could be in there trying to get off one verse. Now you're sweating, and you've been in the booth for 20 minutes trying to get off a verse that should have took you 2 minutes because there's certain techniques that you're just unaware of. You know what I mean? So these are things that and also on the beat, right? When a beat is playing, I could either jump in right when the beat jumps in, I could relax, let the beat go, then jump in. I could make my rhymes very formulaic, or I can mix them up and have different cadences, right? There's all different types of things you can do, right? I could make a metaphor out of something. I could use this part as my hook. This is my bridge. This is my pre chorus. This is my, there are things you have to know. So, what he's doing at John Hopkins, as far as for music students, these are things that they need to know. These are our future songwriters, um, and things of that nature. I would like to see things go into performance arts. You know what I mean? So if Lupe does jump on, that's one thing I'll ask him about. But you know, well, that's neither here nor there. But I'm just saying, in the education space, And in the tech space, I think there's so much room for growth and evolution of hip hop that I just don't want it to be lost because we're fearful of what may happen or we're fighting each other about what may happen. I think sometimes we need to just jump into it, jump into the tech space and see where it takes us. Because if we have a positive outlook, more times than not, we'll get a positive result,
I
right?
mean,
If
it,
we're
it,
jumping,
it, it ain't no
yeah,
time to be scared. Ain't no. It's, I mean, you need to jump in. You need
yeah,
to jump in at 10 toes. I mean, because right
yeah,
now, you're either going to get there or get left. I mean, we're moving in a. I mean, when Google first came on board 25 years ago or 20 years ago, whatever, when that started with search engines before the Napster days, and you had. I remember I used to have internet service called Prodigy. Then it was Prodigy. Then it was Prodigy. It was what was the other ones they had? It was Prodigy, internet
early.
service,
Oh yeah,
CompuServe or something. Was it CompuServe? It was some kind of different startups. They had a little dial tone with the modem. You had that back in the day. Then you had
right.
AOL. You know what I mean? I mean the
Yeah, man.
technology is moving. I just think we need to again inject the humanity in it because that's the
Yeah,
element you can't recreate. You know what I'm saying? You can't recreate the like so for
yeah,
example, if I've been to a garden, I smell a flower, I can only replicate, I can only tell you, I can paint that picture for you based upon me being in that garden or me being in the Dominican Republic and I'm riding down this road and I see this lush greenery and these trees that's like
right.
looks barren land before I get to the resort. Or you just can't recreate that. I don't think AI
Yeah,
can express that. You know what I mean? So or maybe there's
yeah.
I think there's an AI podcast out, man. Maybe an AI podcast
Ooh,
might jump out and maybe
no, there
but
is,
but I
there
mean
is.
you can't create the chemistry or lack thereof of you and I. You know what I mean? Pause. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
you
but
just
that's one reason why I'm not scared of it though, because I know that there are certain things that as a human being, I'm gonna be able to describe better than an AI. Now, if I'm just describing an object, a flower, a car, an airplane, a building, well then yeah, an AI maybe will be able to describe that as accurately as I can describe that. Or even an emotion, if I say love, an AI can come close to describing that, right? But if I'm talking about a specific person, I love this girl, right? This specific girl. Can an AI express that better than I can? I I don't think it can because I have a real life history with this girl. With the, you know what I'm saying? If I'm explaining my real life, can an AI explain the emotions behind my real life better than me? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm just saying if I'm behind the AI that's doing the explaining anyway, then it's really still me. Do you know what I mean? So I don't have a fear of this technology. As far as people saying, "Well, yeah, this is a slippery slope," and again, that goes back to my comments on responsibility. With any technology you have, period, no matter what, you have to have some level of responsibility just as the foundation. That's to all the technology. I mean, if you plan on doing something destructive, well then, hey, that's just what you plan on doing. If you plan on doing something constructive, something positive, you can also do that as well. So I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
In this
and not
conversation.
kind of in the vein of AI, but a little bit before AI's time. There was a company called still probably in existence. It was Rap Genius first and Genius. And I knew the
Hmm.
guys that founded it or co-founders. My mom, he transitioned last year, rest in peace. But I always felt uncomfortable with the decoding of rhyme. What's your thoughts about that approach that they did back, maybe 10 years ago, what Rap Genius did, where it was taking lyrics and first they would have rappers come in and explain their lyrics. They would like kind of decode it, but it was some
Right.
basic shit. I think they had Gucci come do it. They had like Troy Ave. They had They had people come in
Yeah,
that was just bake, stuff that people of the culture. If you just know what he's talking
I
about,
got
you know
you.
what I'm saying? I always felt
Yeah.
uncomfortable with that. What do you think about the company like Genius that was had this repository they were trying to break down and decode lyrics? What was your thoughts on it?
I mean, I can't really be too upset with that because I use Rap Genius. Like I go to Rap Genius and check out the meaning behind certain lyrics. With a Mr. Fiasco, Lupe Fiasco, understanding a lot of what he's saying, it came from Rap Genius. I'm gonna keep it a buck, right? Because so that's why I think it's good. It's not just Lupe, but you have a bunch of MCs. You have Ghostface Killer, Wu Tang Clan, Cannabis, ASAP Rock, um, KRS-One. You have a bunch of people that are very complex in what they're saying. So to understand the message that you're conveying, well, yeah, I think it's a very helpful tool, and it shows the level of complexities that are in these lyrics. And when we I think I grew up. We're going to talk about battle stuff in a second. The West Coast may feel away because of how we've been looked at lyrically. I grew up listening to Razzcast, right? So he's from California. So if I'm looking on Rap Genius and I'm looking up Razzcast lyrics, it's gonna break down and give me a sense of what he was referring to, what the meaning behind what he was saying was, so I can get a deeper understanding of the song. So I love it. You know what I mean? I love it.
But yeah, I mean, like for example, like again, I understand some value in it. Well, I mean, you have some value in it. But when I listen to pop, how do you want it,
Yeah,
right? I like the way you activate them. Hit some push that ass out. Got a nigga wanting this so bad. I'm about to pass out. Want to dig
right.
you, and I can even lie about it. I don't need. I know what he means. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
what he. I
yeah.
know.
Of
I know what
course.
he
Yeah.
means. I just don't think. I don't know. I see the value in it, but I also see like I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I, I don't
Pac
know.
is one thing, and then Pac also a great lyric. When people say Pac's not a lyricist, I don't agree. I think Pac is also a lyricist. But if I'm looking up cannabis, I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of things that cannabis is saying is flying over my head. I'm gonna keep it a buck. So if I want to know what he's saying, then these tools are helping me understand because I think hip hop should be a learning culture. I think when somebody comes out here and they're spitting 50 bars, I think you should learn something in them bars should be something we should learn from. So the tools that help us do that, I'll never be opposed to that. Now there are some that's like I want to go off the feeling, and I'm not mad at that. I started off this show talking about sometimes you got to just go off the feeling. When Mac Miller is singing, his new songs, or some people it's just feeling based. When I mention Snoop Dogg, Snoop Dogg really is just how you feel. It's not really like let me break down his bars and figure out the complexities of his bars. No, Redman. It's really about a feeling. I put on the music. I have a feeling of now I want to have a good time. That's really the feeling I'm getting. So it's different things for different artists. You know what I mean? But I like it. But I hear both arguments. I'm not trying to dismiss your argument because I hear that too. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
So
right. Shout out
yeah,
to everybody. Hit like and subscribe. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. Get us to where we need to be. We appreciate you rocking with us because you can be rocking anywhere in the world, but you rocking with us tonight. Number one
yes,
weekend podcast in the game, the weekend round. Let's go to our next topic. Daylyt. I know we was going to touch on this last Wednesday, but we didn't get a chance to. Daylyt
yeah.
respond to the Joey Badass record. What was your thoughts on that, Leroy?
Oh man, I got a lot of different thoughts, but battle culture. So I just talked about artistic integrity because in 2024 we saw the battle of Kendrick versus Drake, and we knew to ourselves this was a battle about culture versus vulture, or you know what I'm saying? Like that's what we knew, culture versus vulture. So that's very important. right? I'm from an era where battles was just like regular. That was just like a normal thing. And I do think it's necessary. Um, so Joey Badass came out and in his record he said, you know, too much West Coast D licking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So I'm from California, but I don't have a problem being challenged on where we stand or how we get down. I don't got a problem with that. And I feel like, you know, some people feel like, well, Joey is not in the right place to say certain things, but I feel like, you know, why not? I mean, Joey Badass has been out here for quite a while. You know what I mean? Is he a superstar? No, but how many of us are superstars? You know what I mean? So no, no, he's not that. But he's been around for quite some time. And to be honest with you, in my view, in the blog era when he dropped the 1999 mixtape, it was a resurgence in a certain particular sound. New York City, and I'm a go at you, New York City, only because um Joey Badass came at California. He came at where I'm from, so I'm gonna go back at New York City. But make no mistake about it, I'm from the Big and Pac era, so I learned from that era. I learned how to not be destructive. I learned what it means when you take a beef so far that somebody loses their life. So I learned what not to do. So when I'm going at New York, understand I'm going at New York because I respect the mecca of hip hop, because I respect the city. It's not that I'm going at it because I don't respect it. And that's one major thing that we got to know. You know what I mean? So, and I say that because Daylyt, in his response to Joey Badass, he's not he's not super dissing Joey Badass. He's not saying when I see you, it's gonna be a problem, XYZ. That's not what it is. He's like, look, I'm from Cali. I go to New York. I put on a lot in New York. Like as far as battle culture is concerned, I did a lot of work out there in New York. You know what I'm saying? I have relationships with a lot of people out there in New York. I respect New York's position and what they do. So what I'm saying is this overall, and you know, I'm multitasking here, but what I'm saying is this overall. Let's have a healthy battle. Let's have a because we only picture battles if they're destructive. We can't picture what a constructive battle looks like because we always assume it must be a problem. If I battle, like if let's say I go to battle Daylyt, right? Or Joey Badass, I must have a real problem. Well, what if I don't have no problem? What if I just want to compete and that's it? I should be able to throw my shot. A Daylyt, a Joey Badass. I heard what you're saying. Now let me go. XYZ, etc., etc. I should be able to just spit my bars and it be known from the gate that this is not a personal problem. This is not a beef. This is a creative display. It's not a diss, it's a display, right? So I'm all for this energy. The West Coast is on the East Coast neck. I gotta be honest. Love y'all, but Daylyt went. Ray Vaughn went. There are some other people waiting that have already went. So it's like East Coast. You poked at the bear. Now you got the California bear is feeling
I
away.
mean, I mean,
But
let's take a
you know what I
step
mean?
back. Let's take a step back
Yeah,
before you
yeah,
do a victory lap. Let's take a step back, right?
yeah.
I just think I mean, let's think. You got the West Coast. You got Kendrick. You got Larry June. You got Ab Soul. You got Ray Vaughn. You got Daylyt. You got folks out in the West that's been percolating. You know what I'm saying? You got YB. You know,
Yep.
Nipsey had it for a little bit. Um, I mean, yeah, they got a run going on, but I don't think it's so big. I don't think it's no East Coast West Coast thing, right? Because for a long time, the South had it. You know what I'm saying? And we could say,
Yep.
will it be Atlanta? Will it be Memphis? Will it be Miami? Will it be even Houston? You know what I'm saying?
He didn't go at the South. He went
The
at
South
us.
had it. So again, the New York, the last. hope for New York. And I respect Joey. I respect what he's doing. I like him as an MC. But I think Lupe's joining us real quick. Let's get back to this real quick. Let's get back to this real quick. Hold on one second. Uh,
If he is, I'm on the
Lupe, what's
phone
good,
right
sir?
now.
How you doing, brother?
Oh
Peace, peace,
man,
peace.
salute. So look,
Y'all
I
can
was
hear me?
just on the phone right now. I was just about to send you, like, DM you something like, Lupe, come back. You know what I mean? Salute.
Peace, peace.
What's
Y'all
up,
can hear
man?
me?
Yeah, we hear you pretty
Yes,
good, man.
sir.
Thank you
Yes,
for
sir.
joining the show, man. We got a couple questions for you. I know Leroy want to talk to you about,
Absolutely.
what you're doing in the education space, and I kind of elaborate. The last thing you did post was that you wanted to make a distinction that you teach rap music. You teach rap or the science of rap, not hip hop. Well, you
Yeah,
want to
not hip hop.
elaborate on that a little bit to kind of let the audience know what that distinction is? I kind of have an idea, but I want you to explain it in your words, sir.
Yes,
Absolutely.
sir.
I've been thinking about that. Appreciate y'all for having me on, man.
Of
Um,
course.
I've been sneaking into people's live streams and chats the past like few days, like
Right.
popping up on. Um, but make sure y'all hit the like, support the channel, and send them super chats. You feel
Yeah.
me?
No,
People.
I respect that. I respect that, Lupe, that you speaking on behalf of what you're doing. You're not just leaving it out there, but you're actually speaking like, look, I'm at MIT, I'm doing this. I'm going to John Hopkins, I'm doing this. Like, no, I appreciate that because we need to hear that directly from, you or people that are involved in different things. So salute for that. You know what I mean?
And as it should be. I think that I'm gonna get into the questions, but I think that this new era of kind of YouTube streaming podcasters, I think that they should have a little bit more confidence that the people that they're speaking on, that they're able to reach out to them, and that those people will be willing to kind of talk to them, as opposed to just kind of like platforming based off either assumption or just like a review or a reaction to a reaction to a reaction. It's like, nah, I mean, if you approach people in a certain way, you'll get a response out of them, and maybe sometimes it's negative, or maybe in this case it's something that's neutral. Um,
Right.
so anyway, first shout to Daylyt. Daylight's in Sosa.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
didn't
That's
know that.
right.
Okay,
That's right.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
No, that's
uh,
right for sure.
Absol is in Sosa. IT.
Yeah. Hey,
The IT.
I'm with Pendulum. You know.
Yeah, Pendulum Inc. There's a few members of Sosa and Pendulum. Well, Chill IT is Sosa. Mickey Fax IT is Sosa. I remember when they first started
Yes,
Pendulum. Chilla actually came and spoke in my class at MIT as well. He's based in Massachusetts, in Boston.
brother. Yeah.
So anyway, to the question. So the metaphor that I would give it to make it the most sense, the analog is, okay. So say there's a class on video games, right? Just
Right,
video games.
Right.
Then there's a class on PlayStation 5, right?
right,
Two
Hmm.
separate classes. Then there's another class on Call of Duty, right?
Right.
Call of Duty,
Okay.
right?
Right. Got you.
right.
Hmm.
Distinction between hip hop and rap. So video games is all video games. It's all of the different consoles. It's the history. It's all of the people who developed it. Maybe you might get into the code of how to build it. Maybe you get into the artwork, and you get into all of the code. You get into the conventions, the video game uh,
Right.
competitions. You get into that whole complex, right? Which requires somebody who, if they're teaching it at the level at the institutions that I teach at, and there's no disrespect to people teaching it at various capacities, at the levels that
Hmm.
I teach at, the person who teaches video games has to have immense amounts of knowledge about video games, right? The
Right.
culture of
Hmm.
video games, all the people, the timeline of it, all of those pieces. Now, that's different if somebody's teaching PlayStation 5, right? Yes, PlayStation 5 is a video game, but you don't necessarily need to know that whole complex. Like, you're not talking about Atari and TurboGrafx 16
Right.
and Super. Yeah, it's all you talking about PlayStation 5, very specific, right? A level
Right.
below that, and you would expect somebody who teaches PlayStation 5 to be an expert in PlayStation 5. Okay. Call of
Hmm.
Duty is separate. It's a video game. It's its own world, it's its own space, has its own rules. It's a first person shooter. It's very specific, right? It speaks to a very specific audience. There's a very
Right.
specific play the game. You don't need to know how to play Pac-Man in order to play Call of Duty, right? You don't need to have the history of video games to play Call of Duty. or to teach Call of Duty, you just need to be really, really good at Call of Duty, right? Taking it back to hip hop and rap. I'm really, really good at Call
Mm.
of Duty. I'm not good at hip hop,
Right.
right? Hip hop's way too big. It
Gotcha.
has too many components in it. It has all types of histories and people. You got to be able to speak to all the different regions, nationally and internationally, all of the functions, the business, all of those kind of pieces and parts, which I'm aware of, but I don't have the confidence that I'll be able to walk into a classroom, right, in front of kids
Right.
who are, in some cases, kids are paying, hundreds of thousands of dollars with the expectation that they're going to get a world class, awareness of this particular subject matter. And I can't do that for hip hop, right? But I can
Right.
definitely rap. I can definitely do that for that very specific attribute, or how you want to call it, practice within the complex of hip hop, which has its own kind of constraints and rules. It's something that I've I do it on a daily basis. It's my primary job. I've achieved success in it at all the levels of it, from battling to being to selling records to, I'm one of the
Yeah.
reasons I was talking about Rap Genius earlier. I'm one of the reasons Rap Genius exists, right?
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
The
Yeah.
ground
Uh-huh.
floor, right? So even in those areas, and then now when you're looking at it, rap, even though it's kind of, there's other rappers who have led the charge. Shout out to Play from Kid and Play. Shout out to Bun B. Even shout out to Ninth Wonder. Shout out to people who've been in the academic spaces. Now I'm
Mm.
carrying, right, to push rap in its academic world, and there's a whole other piece behind. I could teach a course on rap as an academic practice, and not teach you how to write one verse. You feel me? So
Right.
I think I'll land on this. We get to another topic. I don't teach the culture of hip hop. I think it's too precious. I think it's too big, and I think I don't want to have to fight. Right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
Not because it started with such and such, and you got your facts wrong. But like, nah, it's like I'm not even interested. I have enough fights to deal with
Right. Right.
on my, as
That's a lot of
opposed.
fighting. Right. Yeah.
So in terms of, but I'll give you a little bit of crossover, and this is from my course at MIT, and there's a difference between the course at MIT and the course at Johns Hopkins.
Right.
Um,
Mm.
the course at MIT, we do two classes that are about the history of styles, right?
Mm.
And I bring in a guy by the name of Kevin Beecham, who you all should know. Everybody in rap should know who Kevin Beecham is, even the fans. He's a rapper. He works at Rhyme Sayers. He has a marketing kind of piece there. But he is, when I asked Chino Excel, IT, rest in peace. Um,
Peace.
we were looking for people who were thoroughly versed in just rap from a historical point of view, and just like, and in that you'll get some hip hop, but I'll kind of address what the crossover is.
Right.
Right.
He knows Kevin Beecham wrote a book called The Encyclopedia of Rap. He didn't publish it. He's still kind of sitting on it. And it's every verse that was commercially released and some that weren't commercially released from 1979 to 1989,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Every
Wow.
song, every verse from 1979 to 1989. He was going to do a
Wow.
second edition, which was 89 to 99. And then after that, he was like, it's just it's too many verses to kind of
Any.
keep up with. Be a billion pages long.
Yeah.
But there's a certain scarcity of verses between 1979 early 80s. It's not like it's millions and millions of verses. It's like a few thousand, right? In some cases a few hundred. In cases when it first started, it was a few. You maybe count them on one hand. So Kevin Beecham, we call him Kevin Beecham IR because he's also a member of Sosa. He can speak to, I'm saying this, to me it's fascinating. To you it might be like whatever, but I feel like y'all fuck
No,
with
it's
this rap.
fascinating.
No, no, no. We listening,
I'm
bro.
with you.
We with you. We with you.
He
I'm
can
with
tell
you.
he can tell you the first person to ever use a ad lib on a track,
Mm.
All right.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Fire.
he's that micro with it, right?
Mm.
He can tell you the first person that did double time. He can tell you the first person, and he'll have like the whole. So anyway, he's just a resource and an archivist of rap, right? But he also raps, and he's really really good, right?
Yeah.
Being a practicer, practicing what you preach. So we do 2 days in my class where he comes in and we just teach. I sit in the audience, and he just teaches a chronological history of styles within rap, and he goes through every single style, right?
That's
So
fire. Yeah.
in that in that he'll provide context of what was happening, why that style emerged, what was it responding to, who was
Mm.
the person, what were they doing. So it's not just, like this happened in 1970, this happened in 1982 on this record. He'll tell
Right.
you to the gritty. In that, you're getting, I say all that to say that in that process, you're getting the story of hip hop. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
In a
Right.
Right.
correct way. So I hesitate even with that, even though I know kids in my class are getting this kind of education of hip hop along the way as they learn about rap and learn and create their own raps. But I also am very, very adamant about saying, like, hey, I don't teach hip hop. I don't teach.
Right.
I don't.
I mean, it's too vast. It's too vast just to put everything on one professor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I do think it's very important that those things are covered because you see what I'm saying when I said hip hop is more than just the rhymes and the music, even though
Mm.
that's very important. It encompasses a lot. You know what I mean? So that's where I think it branches out to not just Lupe Fiasco, but you open the door for many different subjects to be, studied and dissected and so forth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And there is a hip hop class at MIT that's been there for, I think, like 10 years.
Right.
Right. There's a
Yeah.
turntable at MIT. There's a guy who teaches turntablism. But there's a hip hop class, and the guy who teaches that, when the class was first started at MIT, it was I forgot the name of the professor who started. He's not there anymore, but he came in, started this hip hop class, and he approached it from the purview of dance because he was a dancer. So it was more biased toward dance and hip hop, and that's how
Right.
he kind of tracked it. But it was a class about hip hop. So if the expectation was that you were going to go in that class and learn how to rap, it was like, no, like you're gonna go into this class and kind of run about hip hop through the lens of dancers. Not to say that he won't mention
Right.
rap, because you mentioned graffiti, you mentioned turntablism, you mentioned some of the other kind of elements that are in there. But as of today, I share the hip hop space with a professor by the name of Professor McCurson, who is a choreographer, a dancer, a breaker, Boston based. He dances for all type of global artists and big artists and stuff like that. Black guy. He's Haitian, and he teaches a class on hip hop, and it's through dance. So he'll have part of his lecture
Right.
where he has kind of like a chronology of the start of hip hop, and he'll go through all kind of the high points and some of the low points, all the way up through the 80s and 90s and into the 2000s to now. That's like half the class, and then the second half of the class you're learning how to break.
Mm.
Fire. That's
Interesting.
Um,
dope. Yeah.
and his class is packed. Like he has, like, it's super packed, right?
Right.
But that's kind of like, as we think about hip hop approaches, how it's taught, how it's framed in academia, there's some people who just teach hip hop from a social standpoint, right? And rap and the practices are merely just kind of like means to an end, as opposed to like, we're going to teach you how to dance, or I'm going to teach you how to play the
Right.
turntable, I'm going to teach you how to beatbox. You're just going to get like theories about its relationship to the criminal justice system, or you're going to get its relationship to urban development, right? I have a guy by the name of Michael Ford, who's an architect who runs the hip hop architecture camp. He's also a member of SOSA, and he teaches kids architecture through hip hop, right? And it's
Dope.
it's very so extracting elements of hip hop culture, which include the music production, the
Right.
rapping. All the
Yeah.
kids rap. They write raps about the world that they want to see, and then he gives them the architectural tools to go build it based off the raps that they wrote. Right. So it's beautiful, amazing ways that people are approaching and using hip hop, in a vast way, like you said, but also in a very kind of constrained, focused way. I just
Mm.
choose to teach the techniques of rap, and along the way, you'll get pieces and parts of the hip hop. That's the class at MIT. The class at Johns Hopkins, those and the kids at MIT, they're engineers, math wizards. Nuclear. One of my students is a nuclear physicist, and he's super fire. Um,
Right. Nuclear physics bars.
listen, Ask Chilla Jones. Ask Chilla Jones IT. He came in. their EO Dub hip hop battle that they did as their final.
Right.
But at Johns Hopkins, the Peabody Institute is a music school. So the kids that are going to Peabody, their goal is to be musicians, right? Their goal is to be, piano players, or playing orchestras, or and a big part of the Peabody Institute is their engineering, their music engineering, their computer music, which they've had since like the 70s, right?
Mm.
Um, somewhere in that space. But anyway, those kids, their focus is way different. So the cultural part of like that's important, but I need to know these techniques, right?
Right.
So the same, yeah, I can come here and learn about the history of the piano, but I need you to teach me how to play it. And we got to make a choice because we only got an hour.
Right.
You know what I'm
Gotcha.
saying? It's like I how to play the
Gotcha.
piano. Who made the
Right.
piano?
Right.
Uh, so in the class that the bachelor's degree that's there, which is a bachelor's degree in hip hop, it's a 4-year degree. It's a bachelor's
Mm.
degree. I'm basically teaching lessons to people who already know how to rap, because the only way that you're getting into the school is you have to audition, right? You have to like apply, audition, so you already have to come in knowing how to rap. Versus at MIT, I'm teaching kids who've never rapped before in their lives,
Right.
right?
Got it. Hmm.
Um, the arc behind the Peabody piece is, yeah, they want to go out and become professional artists, professional pieces, and it it's surrounded by like the Peabodys, and people may be ignorant of the extent of what a music degree entails. And at the
Hmm.
Peabody, you got to know how to engineer, you got to know how to compose, right? You got to know how to record, you got to know how to do all these things around your craft,
Right.
just in case you ever get that job, right? And you
Right.
have to take classes you still take classes at Johns Hopkins, so you still take normal kind of classes, um, history and English and maybe math and some other things, right?
Yeah.
Um, but then also, like, you're taking music business courses, right, to kind of prepare you for that. And I'll give you one example, because people are kind of like, well, what you gonna do with a rap degree? What you gonna do with a any type of music degree for that matter, right?
That was
So
that was my next question. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll give you an example, and this comes from Yale. I'm a Saybrook fellow at Yale too, so I'm at all three of these institutions at the same time, including SOSA. Um, at Yale, like when you think of like painters, right? When you think of like contemporary painters, right?
Hmm.
New painters, and you think like, dang, I've never heard of this person. How did they get a show at whatever museum, LACMA, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
And if you do your due diligence and you kind of like see who they are, they're not just some person who was just happened to just throw some shit on the canvas and then somebody saw it and it was like, oh, you need to be in a museum,
Right.
right? The
Right.
same, it never really is like, oh, I just seen dude rapping on the street corner, right? And like, yeah, you need to just go perform at Summer Jam, right?
Right.
It don't work like that. There's a system, right? Um, and so in the fine arts, one of the top schools is Yale School of Fine Arts, like Yale's art school.
Dope.
If you look like a majority of the artists, like painters and sculptors that come out and they're like known and you see their work and it's a thing, if you
Mm.
take like peeks to where they went to school, it's like, oh, he went to Yale, right? Or
Mm.
she went to Goldsmiths, or she went to, and there's a whole pipeline of like the artists who make it. And not saying every artist is gonna make it, just like everybody who goes to school for a law degree doesn't necessarily become a lawyer, right?
Right.
In the field that they want to be in. You might have went in wanting to be an immigration lawyer, but you turn out being like a trademark lawyer or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, that pipeline of like classroom to gallery is something that the Peabody like has from like classroom to orchestra.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like classroom to conductor. And
Gotcha.
the hope would be, and this is the little pie in the sky kind of theory thing. This is one of the reasons that we started Sosa, was that and this is for people, and it, we could talk about it, take shots at it, see what you guys think, see what the crowd thinks. Is
Yeah.
that the people who get deals and who have historically got deals at record companies
Hmm.
or space, that like that took up the space at a record store, you would hope that when you pull that CD off the shelf, that when you listen to that album, that it was the highest quality of what they could produce.
Right.
Not compared to anybody else, but just like, is this high quality, like the utmost, or did the person just go in the studio and just hit you with a bunch of lackadaisical, unrefined kind of whatever, and you just spent $20 on that shit? And that's how it used to be,
Right.
right? It's like you
That's
go get
true.
this and like, man, that shit was whatever. But then you would get other people's albums, and that shit would be absolute fire. And then you think like, well, what was the procedure and the process that they went through? And then you do a little
Right.
back. Like, go read Jay-Z's Decoded. It's one. It was one of the required readings in my class. Now it's a suggested reading, but the
I'll
first
do
verse
that.
require you have to read Decoded. If you read
Yeah.
Jay-Z, he went to school. He went to school. You
True.
know,
True.
to
Yeah.
an institute, but he honed his rap skills in a very intentional, very
Yeah.
deliberate, very structured way, and he trained himself to, when he went into the studio, he didn't waste no time. Right?
Right.
He that he could rap over. He knew the beats that he couldn't rap over, and then he learned how to rap over the beats that he couldn't.
It's
Right?
true. Yeah.
His skills against certain things. He knew how to craft things. I remember when me and him did Pressure. Jay-Z don't like to hook for Pressure. I'm gonna just put that out there.
Even rock with it.
When we did Pressure, no rock with it, pun intended. He was
Classic.
like,
Hey, was you nervous knowing that you're gonna be on the same song with Jay-Z? Sidebars. Huh?
no, I've been around Jay-Z since I was 19 at that point, so I'm used to that.
Okay.
Um,
Salute. Yeah.
but hold on, I'll land on this. He was
Yeah.
like, yeah, when we put he laid his verses, it didn't have a chorus. We put a chorus on it, we sent it, and we put it out. He hit me. It was like, yo, he hit us, and was like, he hit me. I think he hit me. He was like, yo, we went to the studio and I seen him. He's like, yo, I do hooks, right?
Yeah.
What?
Right.
Like, yo, if I could have, like refined it, I could have put my skill set on top of it and made it a little bit better. So I think and I'll land. I think there's something to creating a pipeline for rappers
Right.
specifically. And the hip hop, the Peabody degree, it's hip hop producers, it's turntablism, it's beatboxing, it's
Mm.
everything musically. And so they can call it a hip hop degree because it covers multiple bases. They also have a dance. I think they're going to introduce a dance component maybe later because there's a dance component at the Peabody as well.
Mm.
But it's the initial offering, I don't think. But I'm consulting on it, so I'll tell them like, hey, we're going to do a dance, as well as kind of graffiti in some capacity. So it covers the range of hip hop production, rapping with myself, beatboxing, turntablism, and the guys and gals that are going to be coming in after me in the announcements. When you realize like, oh, who's teaching the turntable class? It's going to be somebody like, oh, or who's teaching the beatbox class? Oh shit, they got such and such. Oh my god, right? So it's not some
Yeah,
like
right. But
it's
that's what I was agreeing with though. I was saying we should have people that's from the culture. Some I was saying like or else we're gonna get some strangers. Like we know Lupe. Like we don't have to know you personally, but what I mean is you have built up a reputation in hip hop. You have your catalog, you have your history. We know Lupe to a sense. So I can trust Lupe's expertise in this area versus just somebody that we don't even know at all.
Right.
He coming in here.
And right.
You know
And
what I mean?
let me ask this question, Lupe. We talked about AI and the convergence of AI and hip hop a little bit early in the show. Tell the audience what Endless Loop is and where do you see how the community, the hip hop space fits in with the AI, the convergence of AI, and tell us more about Endless Loop.
all right. This gonna explode. Before I will cap off that last piece. I would love to be doing something else, meaning that meaning that I don't want to teach at all these schools. I want other rappers to teach at these schools. I want such and such to teach here, right? I would rather in names, but I want such and such to teach here. That's the reason we started Sosa, right? It's like equip rappers with the ability to do anything, not just
Mm-hmm.
rap,
Right.
take your skill, put it in a classroom, put it in a film, put it at an engineering firm, put it at an architecture firm. Like you can add value with the way you think, because rapping is the way you think, less about what like the linguistic part is, the cognitive part, and that's valuable, and that's what you have an advantage over other people who don't think like you do, and that's
Yeah.
some. So I would love to like set the tone at Peabody for a year and then move out the way so Absol can come in and teach it IT. You know what I'm saying? And so
No.
and then we proof it at Peabody. Now we need somebody at UCLA. You know, and it's no knock to like professors who aren't rappers, but I'm talking
Hmm.
about people note in our field, like
Right.
from like rapper who Rascas, should be teaching at UC Berkeley.
No doubt. No doubt.
Or
Hmm.
I'm I'm not gonna say it because I don't
Right.
want to
I know
get
what you mean. I know what you mean.
those
Yeah.
Space Killers should be at NYU teaching,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
trust me, I'm just like here because the opportunities are there, and I'm definitely gonna take them. But just know I also want this to be a legacy thing, and I want it to be passed. And I can't take all the jobs. I'm teaching at
Right.
two schools, but I would love people to come in and like you do it, but also have a space where it's like here's what they expect. Hey y'all, I went through it. Here's what they expect. Right
Right.
here's
Right. Right. Hmm.
right. It can't
Nah.
just be no going in and rap shit. It has to have some type of undertone and understanding. That's something we impressed upon all the members of Sosa. So that's why
Yeah.
Pendulum Inc. shaped the way it is, and even D1 teaching at Tufts, the way he teaches it's like,
Right.
hey, make sure that when we hit and the things that we're doing, that it has a base beyond just like some creative bullshit. All
Which
right,
is needed.
to your
Yeah.
point about technology. So the theme of my class, so the title of my class is Rap Theory and Practice. This is at MIT. The theme of the class is, for every creative decision, there's a technological response.
Mm.
Hmm.
And for every technological decision, there's a creative response, right?
True.
There's
Got it.
no thing is just pure creativity without technology. And I pose that I challenge my students, I challenge you all. You can't point to me to any craft that doesn't have a technological component.
That's true. I mean, I would have to agree with that. I mean, because we're using the tools of at our disposal, no matter what, as we're being creative. So
Right?
yeah.
And
Mhm.
you can either choose to or choose not to have an awareness and understanding and working relationship with those tools.
Right.
So let's keep it rap. I talked about it in the comments, and you brought it up too, like pen versus pencil. That's what
Yes.
that was like one of the first things that I wrote in the Sosa Field manual, right? Which is like, here's a book for rappers to just take and go, and it has everything you need, right? It's based off a book called The Artist Handbook, which I'm looking at right now on my desk, which is about painting. But the guy who wrote it is a chemist,
Oh, okay.
right? But he
Yeah.
was able painting through the lens of all of its constituent components and all of its technologies that apply to it. And it empowers artists with the ability to understand like their craft is made up of all these little individual micros, and that this gives you the ability to go in and tweak it just a little bit. Because it's not about big changes, it's about little tweaks here, little tweak there, little tweak here, little adjustment here, a little bit of this, right? To even when you talk about like colors, so you add a little bit of white, you'll get this. You add a little bit more white, you'll get this. You add too much white, you add a little bit of black to get this. To so it's those little things, but it's really you're mixing chemicals, right? So
Right.
keep it rap. There's a difference in pencil writing with a pen and not writing at all, right?
Right.
If you write
True.
with a pencil is a technology, right? It
Yeah.
was something invented. It's not something that was natural. Pencils don't grow out of the ground, right?
Pardon me. I was responding to somebody in the comments. Pardon me. Go ahead.
Good.
Yeah.
A pen is a further development of that technology, but it comes with some pros and some cons, right? And we talk about just writing. Writing
Uh,
is a tech. the act of writing is a technology, right? It's something to be trained, right? It has a certain set of constraints and rules, right? And you actually need something else to do it, right? I mean, you could use your
Right.
finger, medium, to do it. You need some sand.
To capture it on, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sand needs to be recorded, right? But sand can get blown away, so let's write it in clay, right? Or let's write it in stone, or now let's write it in steel, or let's write it in ones and zeros. So
Right.
you could use a pen. Pen has its constraints. You can't erase.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna think a little bit deeper before you write versus a pencil.
Right.
And pencil's a bit messier, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
actual fight of it, it looks a little messier, so it's less elegant. So there's a different aesthetic that's happening when you write with pencils and pens. When you choose
Right.
between these two, if you choose to not write at all, then you have to kind of be like, either everything I'm going to do is be freestyled, or I'm gonna have to record it in some capacity. Now I'm gonna have to have a relationship to recording software and recording equipment. That's more expensive, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
less, right? Now I can't really think about like raps all day, right? I have to be very like specific when I'm thinking about them, and I need to be close to a studio, so I go right, and then I do everything off the top of the dome, because there's no way you're gonna be able to record it. There's no way you're gonna be able to remember all of those verses like that, right? That
Right.
you went through thinking about. So there's
Right.
advantages, disadvantages to all of those, but they're all based on technology. One of the first, one of the first that I was thinking about having my students do it, like first day of class, but it's a little crazy. But I think I might do it coming up, maybe at the Peabody or something like that. Well, we have MIT can make everything. We got a glass blowing shop. We got a blacksmith in the basement.
Hey, I want to come visit MIT, man. Low key. I know you've said before, if someone wants to come up here and talk to me, just come up here. When I heard that, I was like, I want to go up
Yeah,
there, man. You know what I
well,
mean?
MIT is an open campus, so I don't even need to be there. You can just go in there and walk around. Like it's not. They lock it after a certain time,
Right.
like 5. But like during the day, you can walk in, you can peek in labs, you can go sit in classrooms, do
Yeah.
all
No, I got a friend in Boston and he's been to the campus. He's been, all around colleges, and it's a couple people I just want to go see what's going on. You know what I mean?
It's a vibe. It's a big high school. Unless you know what's going on, you're gonna be lost. But come on up, vibe, right?
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but one of the things I was gonna have my students do, and it's all of what I'm saying right now is to impress upon people like your relationship to technology that you might be taking for granted, that you might not be aware of, and how intimate technology and, I don't want to say hip hop, but I have to say hip hop, but technology and hip hop really is,
Got it.
right?
Right.
Hmm.
So at my students, the first thing that they came in class is like, no, we're not finna write no raps. We're not finna freestyle. I don't care who your favorite rapper is. What we finna do is go into the basement of MIT, and there's a paper making class. There's one who teaches people how to make paper, papyrus, and all these different things, right? Because again, MIT makes every technology. Massachusetts Institute of Technology, all technologies,
Wow.
blacksmiths.
Wow.
Uh, and so
Man.
she like this paper making class from scratch, and I was gonna have my students make, like, in order to take the class, you have to make everything that you need for the class.
Wow.
That includes the paper,
Fire.
that includes the pencil that includes the writing utensil, right? That includes ink that you need to dip the feather in.
That's fire.
And lo and behold,
Yeah.
my students are so smart. I'm like, now you need to build a microphone. They'll build that shit. They'll make it.
Right. Show
But
up with a
start at
brand new mic.
base level.
Right.
It's a technology to that. What are the materials you need? Right? What is the proper mixture of those different materials? How long does it take to cure the paper?
Mm.
Um, how much what am I thinking about? What's the like the techniques to actually create it, to like make it, right? Like what are all the resources you need? How long it's gonna take? And then at the end of all that process, it takes about 17 hours to make a piece of paper from scratch, right?
Mm.
By, because it needs to dry, it needs to be pressed. There's all, it needs to be cut. There's all these other things that need to happen.
Mhm.
Then you get your writing utensil, whatever that may be, a feather, a quill, and some ink. You might get some graphite, just raw carbon graphite. That's
Quill. You know what
Some
I
dirt.
mean?
Smudge it on some paper, some dirt.
so here we go. Here we go. Now let's get creative. We've done our technological act.
Right.
Now what's the creative response? What are you
Mm.
gonna?
Well, that's fire, man. You know what I mean? And
Because guess what? You
yeah,
only got a piece of paper.
one piece of paper. Okay. I
What what you finna write?
I'm gonna write the script to Drogas Waves. So when you go back to Broadway and you
Stop.
have the script for
Stop.
the Longshanks,
Long chain.
that's what I'm gonna try to write, Lupe.
I already wrote that. I already wrote and recorded that on the low.
No, no,
There's
I gotta add my piece. Even if you don't use it, just I don't know, keep it and put it in a drawer. I don't know.
no. This
You know what I mean?
isn't. I'm not being funny. I'm treating you. I'm treating it like you in my class. What are you gonna
Right.
write?
Okay. If it's my
Something. It's
one
got.
piece of
It's
paper,
got to be something
I'm
important.
going
It's
in.
got to be something critically
Yeah.
important. I don't got time to bullshit. I got to write something critically important.
Right. What you
Right.
say? What you say? One more time for the class.
I said I only got one piece of paper. I can't bullshit. I got to write something critically important. It's got to be
Right.
something. It's got. It's got one piece of paper. I got to write something that's gonna be meaningful. I gotta.
Facts.
Right. You're gonna. It's gonna be the verse of your life.
Facts. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're gonna sit and think about. It took me step. If I fuck up, it's gonna take me 17 hours
Cause I gotta
to
start
Bro.
do.
the shit. I gotta start the process all over again. I gotta make the paper again. I gotta do everything over from scratch. So I might as well make this. Make this my last one. My next one. My best one.
Right.
Right.
So
Yep.
just imagine what you gain from that level of scarcity. And again, this is the creative response to the you already done the technological act.
Mm.
And here's the things that come out when you got one piece of paper and only a little bit of graphite or a little bit of ink that you was able to make. Right.
Right.
Fast forward that to our reality, to like when we first started rapping. Right. You had endless amounts of paper,
True.
Right.
endless amounts
Notebooks.
of pens, and the recording utility. You had no relationship to the tech, to the like creative process of the actual materials.
Right.
What you wrote.
Right. No, I mean you're right. Yeah.
Guess is right. A bunch of bullshit. And then it,
Right. Look like y'all been writing some bullshit.
You
Hey,
ball that
you're
shit up.
right
You
though.
would ball it up and
You're
play.
right.
Act like you was Kobe or Jordan shooting them shits in the
Yeah.
trash.
You're
listen,
not really tripping because you got endless paper.
because
Right.
you got endless material, right?
Right. Yep.
Endless, right? But look at the way the technology increased the quantity, and then what happened to the quality,
It
Mm.
decreased.
That's true.
right?
True.
Those are the and the micros that I turn in my class with my
Mm.
students. So it get real serious real quick, because then we take that over to let's apply it to turntables, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's apply it to this is a lesson that Wendell Patrick, who's the head of the department, the hip hop department at Peabody, and professors. You'll see patterns of this with professors. They like, how are you going to operate within scarcity? And it's really your relationship to scarcity that is more important than, and I'm gonna just say this bluntly, than you knowing the history of hip hop.
No, I see what
Right?
you mean though. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Mm.
In the process of creating your art. Yes. Right.
He has he teach so when you go he came into Johns Hopkins. You should all check out Wendell Patrick. He's amazing, right? Classical pianist, jazz pianist, turned all that to hip hop. Teaches the hip hop, like the first hip hop production class at Peabody, which sounds like, oh, this, but Peabody is one of the most prestigious classical kind of institutions in the world. And you got this guy coming in talking about often to teach a course on beat making, and it becomes like popular class at the school, right?
Yes.
He teaches hip hop production, but you have to start producing on like a SP-1200,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
And with
That would be dope though. SP-1200. I'll take it.
with an SP-1200,
Yeah.
you only have like 1.5 seconds of sample time,
Yeah.
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
You get no
So you
time
ain't
to waste.
you ain't got, you know, unlimited sample time, loop a
True.
whole beat, get a whole one shot. Like, no, you can grab that drum, like literally that drum. Now you ain't got time for the loop,
That drum. Right.
that snare, or that, yeah, or that whatever fills in, and then you only have so much outputs.
Mm.
So you ain't like, so you got to do that once, then delete it. Then you got to do the next thing, right?
Right.
But get the thing that you're sampling from the turntables into the SP-12,
Mm.
right?
True.
But
That's true.
with that 1 second sample,
Yeah. It's like it's a constraint. You know what I mean? And what Mickey, he was like, write with constraint. Like, what can you not do? You know what I mean? With a topic, and that forces you to think around. Like one time he was like, write a verse, but don't use the letter E. And I'm like, how the hell am I gonna do that? Like, so
yeah.
I'm writing the verse. Now I gotta stop in between every word to make sure there's no E in the word. And by the time I got to the end of that 16, it was work because it's a scarcity of what I could use. You know what I mean?
So he gets that from Sosa. He learned that at Sosa. So that's
Hey,
that,
salute. Yeah.
that's application process at Sosa. So when you come
Ah.
into, give you a piece of text and ask you what do you notice about this text, and
Mm.
everybody, majority of people fail. And it comes from a book. There's a guy who wrote a book called Avoid, and the book Avoid is like, I mean, it's a whole book,
No
and it's
letter E.
no letter E. That's the first layer.
Mm.
What's the book about?
I don't know. I
Make
read
sure to
Metaphors We Live By, though. I read that.
yeah,
You know?
that's all that's Sosa. All that he gets
I
all that
know
from Sosa.
that's why I read it.
So what is the book Avoid about?
I don't know. Avoiding the letter E?
Right. The story of the book is how the letter E went missing.
Mm.
Mm. Interesting.
So it's not just this one like cute kind of like constraint. It has
Right.
to be, and it's like, oh, the book is about how the letter E went missing. Here's
Wow.
the, here's another layer. Every chapter in the book is the detective guy's like kind of interviewing people, and he's like, what's going on? Like something's wrong with this story. We need to
Right.
figure it out. And every character that gets close to recognizing that the letter E is missing from the story dies.
Mm.
Mm.
That's fire. I mean, I didn't know it was that crazy. Now I'm gonna have to read the book. Thank you, Lupe, for giving me more homework, but I'm gonna have to go read it now. You know what I mean?
Uh,
Yeah.
Pendulum Ink is like Mickey. The way Mickey explained it to me, what is it was like high school, and
Yeah.
that Sosa is like your PhD program.
You ain't lying, man. Cause I know some Sosa cats, and I'm like, their brain is already working crazy. Like, cause I'm
Yeah.
collaborating, doing songs with these folks, and it's like it's already crazy. I'm gonna ask you about battle culture real quick, but go ahead until you're done.
We-
Uh, on the AI piece, hopefully I backfilled a lot of the
Yeah.
technology stuff.
Yeah.
The AI piece. To me,
You did.
AI is just is turntables,
Yes.
right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's digital DAT recorders versus from going from tape from reel to reel tape recorders, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's you mics going from like XLR mics where you need a preamp, right?
Right.
It to me it's just another medium for hip hop to respond to, right? It's just
You're.
another cool piece that hip hop is gonna throw itself at until something sticks. If you choose not to do that process in the first place, then you're actually going against, to me, the spirit of hip hop,
Mm.
which is
Mm.
the scarcity, taking those constraints and remixing it in a way that speaks to us, that speaks to the communities that we come from, that speak to the things that we're trying to combat with having less, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not saying to each their own. I understand that there's ethical issues around it. I understand that there's environmental issues around it. And I can speak to all those things because I am a professor at MIT. But just
Right.
to keep it really dumbed down, I just look, me personally, I just look at things like AI, large language models, and any type of computational system that processes language as just another avenue and another kind of arena for rappers in the rapper mind to go in and just take over, right? And
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
make a business out of it. You know, nobody knew. I might have been tripping. I apologize if I said SP1200s, and those might have been the turntables. So people like, yo, SP1200s ain't turntable. There's a sampler
Right.
that.
You good? Right.
So if I mispronounce or mix those up, but it's just another place for if you choose to, the benefit that you'll get out of mastering that space will set you apart from all of the rapper peers who choose not to. I guarantee you that the rappers who not necessarily embrace and completely allow AI to take over their shit, but interface with it in a way that amplifies their own kind of personal distinct traits will
Mm.
outcompete the rappers who don't. I guarantee you.
I could see that. I could see that. And that's one reason. Now you explained it way better than I could explain it. And that's why I appreciate you coming through. You know what I
So
mean?
yeah, and
So
I wanted to kind
I
of
agree.
expand on
Mhm.
that about what endless loop, what you're doing with endless loop, and how that thought process got you into that new endeavor.
So I wrote an article with a fellow professor from Yale in Wired. We co-wrote an article that wrote it a while ago, but it just came out like a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And I was being asked kind of this question and thinking through this. I think through this with my students. So we talk about turntables and microphones and paper and pen and ink, but we also talk about large language models and computation and AI and the impacts of it and how they're going to respond to it and some of the things that are coming about. We flesh all that out because these are the kids that are actually building the shit. Like when you think like who's building it, it's like some kid from MIT who's probably in my class.
Right.
Definitely my TA. He's building an AI record label right now. My teacher's assistant. But it's the question was like, how should artists be responding to this?
Right.
Right? Like what impact is gonna have? Really like a thought experiment. Like you sit down, you turn on your rapper's mind, and you think about if I put this with this and I put that with that, what do I get? So it's like, hey, I think that artists in the coming future are gonna have three lanes. You're gonna have your normal flesh and blood lane that you are in right now,
Mm-hmm.
with all of the technology that already exists now. So your Pro Tools and
MPC.
your your AT 2020 microphone that you're talking into and all this other stuff, right? That
Right.
stuff just flesh and blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
The middle, that's kind of like a hybrid, which is like things like text effects or things like Sonos, right? Where you might get a beat from Sonos or you might get a beat from Splice when they use the AI kind of generator. They'll just loop just like randomly put a beat together for you. That's kind of like a hybrid, right? Where you're still doing half the work or 75% of the work or whatever, right? AI is doing a little piece of the work for you. Um, and then you have fully autonomous. Fully autonomous means that your like the way you write, your voice, your preference for beats will be used to train an AI model or a large language model, and then it'll just organize that endlessly, right? It'll just be you press a button, it'll make 30 songs that's in your voice, that's in your writing style, that talks about the topics you want to talk about with the beats that you would pick. But it'll create hundreds of them in seconds, right? And what do you choose to do with that? So you have those three things. Some of it is whether you want it or not, right? So take for example like all of those like fake like the fake Biggie records or BBL Drizzy or whatever, right? Like
Right.
didn't co-sign it or sign off on it. Somebody trained but there's like some 50 Cent records that are floating around where he's singing like uh there's like a 70s version of
Right.
Mini Man.
band
Right.
Like old
like
songs. Yeah. Right.
Juicy J didn't sign off on that, but it's happening.
Right.
Uh, so to a certain degree, you people can take your voice, take 30. It only takes like 30 minutes, and in some cases less than that. 30 minutes of just your voice without any music behind it, like a acapella, or not a lot of noise and distortion, filters or anything on it. They'll map
Right.
your whole, and then they'll be able to make your voice do anything they want it to do. Sing, rap in Spanish, yodel, whatever. Put it to whatever
Right.
beat, and it's gone. So it becomes like, all right, and that's why I say whether you want it to or not, it's gonna happen. If you're of note, if people care about your voice, like I know y'all
Right.
mentioned earlier, there are some actors who gave their likenesses, signed over their likenesses. I know James Earl Jones did it
Tom
with Darth Vader.
Cruise. Yeah.
Mm.
James Earl with Darth Vader as well, with his voice, so he can be Darth Vader for whenever they make Star Wars movies. His voice
Right.
will always, even when he dies, so they have his voice mapped. In that case, you can choose to do that. You can look at it and say, hey, I'm and you can look at it in a different in another way. And I'll get to endless loop, but there's a way you can look at it where it's like, hey, you take folks whose voices are damaged, right? So you take DOC,
Beanie
Right.
right?
Siegels.
Benny Siegel. You take folks, take folks who have passed away, right? My work in AI is mostly on posthumous things, right?
Mm.
That's actually work that I'm genuinely researching and interested in, and the things that I have my team at MIT making is like, what is the relationship between the benefit of like AI and the posthumous careers of artists, right?
Mm.
Mm.
That look like? Is there an audience for that? Like, and for me, it's all about the families of the artists. For me, it's about the estate of the artist. It has nothing to do with, I need to bring, like, I'm
Right.
trying to
Trying to
train
profit. Yeah.
profit off. I would love for um, um, Juice
I'm a
World's.
nip. I'm a Nipsey head. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I'm not Nipsey because that's gonna blow up the comments, but rest in peace. But I'm saying like
Correct.
somebody, right? So like Juice World, right? I would love for Juice World's family to be able to control that estate in perpetuity, right? Like, what
Mm.
would he's 50 or 60 or 70? Does it still have value? Is there an audience for that? How do you do it? And not to say that you should or shouldn't do it, but what are the reasons why you should do it? And what are the reasons why you shouldn't do it? If you don't investigate it, then you'll never know. Then it'll just be kind of like what you think it should be, but you didn't really do the processing and think through. So I think through things, just as Lupe Fiasco. That's why I'm successful. That's what I do. That's why I do it. So Endless Loop is my, like, okay, fully autonomous Lupe. What would I do with eight 8,000 songs? Right. I'm
Right.
not gonna put them because I don't want to fight my flesh and bone version. Right. My hybrid space, I still wouldn't use my hybrid stuff. Well, no, I'll take that back. I wouldn't want to compete my hybrid stuff competing with my flesh and bone stuff. So it's like I'm definitely not gonna put it on Spotify. I'm definitely not gonna upload it on YouTube. So okay, what if I just make a radio station where these songs just play
Got it.
endless, but they never repeat? So once it plays, it gets erased. Once it plays, it gets erased. Once it plays, it gets erased.
Now,
Okay, well
now,
what that
people are concerned with them. People will be able to record these songs with before it gets erased. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, cool, but you would have to go out to like the you have to go out to like
The Mojave Desert.
you have to go to like Joshua Tree, right?
Right. Okay. All right.
30 yards of the broadcast little box, right? You would have to have an FM radio, and you would have to have something to be able to record it on too, right?
Gotcha.
Which for
Um,
me, you're willing to do that, fantastic. Because guess what it did, right? It added value,
value in what you do.
experience to go out, something that was lost when you had the technological advancement of iTunes and MP3 players. Music became
That's what I
cheap.
thought.
And
Yes.
then what happens when you have things in abundance?
you value it less.
Exactly. Go back to having one piece of paper,
Exactly.
Right,
No.
right?
right.
The
And
experience
that
that you're gonna have
fire.
gonna be super high quality. Because now, hey, guess what, y'all? I got Endless Loop. It's playing in Machu Picchu.
Right.
So now I'm trying to get you to go. I really just want you to go to Machu Picchu. I don't give a fuck about the song. I'm using
Right.
this to get you to travel, my nigga.
Right.
Right.
Right?
No, I get
Or
it. I get it.
I'm playing. It's playing. You know, we got Endless Loop broadcasting at the Martin Luther King Day Kingdom Day parade in
Right.
Right.
South. Right. So in addition to the parade, hey, a few more people who probably wouldn't have went to the parade. Now you got an incentive to try and find it, even to talk shit about it. Like that shit was trash. Like, but you went.
But you
But
went.
I
Right.
really wanted you to go to the parade, my nigga.
Right. Right. And that kind of forward thinking is so necessary. You know what I mean? I mean, it's so necessary. I came on here I used to be in the comments. I came in here talking about hip hop needs new elements. So what I'm saying is this type of forward thinking is so necessary. So hip hop it shows its range and expansion
Yeah,
into
and it's
what
gonna
it's
drive the conversation, right? We don't know. There's
yeah.
some people against it, right? When the Drake record came out, when he put Pac and Snoop on, there was pushback on it. When the Timberland was talking about doing some work with Biggie, those Biggie records came out, and I think there was some other records that were AI influenced. It drove the conversation, right? So we don't know what it'll look like in 10 years. Maybe the conversation will shift and people will embrace it, but it's just a conversation nonetheless.
I think artists have to recognize, and this is something that I recognized a long time ago when I first started Sosa. And this was something that LL Cool J, when I first, because I've been, Sosa's deep. Sosa's really deep,
Right.
right?
For
Um,
sure.
and really connected in ways that you wouldn't imagine. But I remember going to LL Cool J and I was like, yo, I was like, I'm building this thing called Sosa. Would love to have you kind of come in and be one of the founding members. And it's not to put him on blast, but it's actually because what he said next, I was like, I'll be back. He's like, look, so what you niggas finna just go and call yourselves professors?
That
Okay.
sounds like something I can imagine him saying.
Like damn, LL, like come on now.
And I had to stop. And I was like, and that's when I was like, I'll call you back.
Yeah,
And I went and became a professor,
no,
like a
for sure.
real, like a
Right.
real. And it was like, oh, we have to set standards for ourselves in relationship to the things that we do or the
Absolutely.
things. So before artists, this includes Drake, this includes whoever, right? Uh, uh, K Dot did it with when he did for Heart Part, was it Heart Part 5, the video? Where he
Yep.
had to,
Yeah, yeah, with the faces with Kanye, and then he had Will Smith, and he had some other folks, OJ, and some other folks.
right.
Yeah,
Um, he didn't have Nip, did he?
I think he
He
might have had
did.
Nip. He had Nip. He
Yeah,
had
no, he
Nip.
did. Yeah.
It's it's something across all of us. How do we and how should we as the artists, not the managers, not like the back end people, not like the creative director, right? Like us as
Hmm.
artists, how
No.
should we? I remember bringing this up to Royce too, maybe on a podcast, and it was like I'm super interested in how we're treating the posthumous aspect of our careers,
Mm,
and also posthumous aspects of people that aren't here who we want to kind of immortalize in a certain way, and what should be the standards and the procedures and the mechanisms to do that, especially in the face of a technology that's able to mimic and reproduce them, maybe even better than them naturally, right? It could remove the blemishes, right?
Right.
It could make sure the voice hits all proper notes, right? So there's no bad notes or anything like that. The flows can be immaculate, the writing could be crisp, the word usage, all of that, right? What should our code of ethics and our standards should be as the artist, not fans,
right.
not people comments, not the people we're trying to sell it to, not the record, not the schools, not anybody else, but the actual rappers. How much should we be aware and responsible, um, and how deep should our fingers be in the pies of that particular arena?
Right. You're talking about the living artists, right? Because the ones that have
Yeah,
already transitioned, they can't speak for themselves. Like
they,
a Michael Jackson or a
Right.
Prince, they can't, or Pac or Big, they can't, they're not here to kind of give their thoughts on it. So you're talking about the living artists.
the living artists. And so I'm thinking, and I'm not talking about how we take their past things. That's for the estate, right?
Right.
I'm saying like when new things. So like when they had Tupac performing at Coachella
Right.
with the hologram,
The holograms
that's
on.
right. That's Tupac performing like new right now. It's not like they took an old
Right.
Tupac performance. It's like no, that's a brand new Tupac,
Yep.
and it's not good or bad. I'm just bringing up examples. So that's why I brought up the
Right. Right.
example of Part Five. That's why I brought up the example of Tupac at Coachella. That's why I brought up the example of y'all brought up the example of Snoop and Tupac on the Drake record. Me and Absol actually just did some with Doughburger on P, right? So it's like the depth of that conversation I think it should be really deep. And I think it should be really thought out. And I think we should go through it philosophically. I think we should go through it legally. I think we should go through it ethically, morally. I think we
Good.
should go through the levels
Yeah.
that it deserves, right? And how do you relate it in an AI space? What is allowed, what's not allowed? And I don't think, and this is me personally, with all due respect, I don't think that this should be something. I don't think that conversation should be open to the public until we come to terms with what we're all willing to accept. Right?
Right.
It's
Got it.
happening state of Chino XL IT, who's one of the founding members of Sosa, one of the original grandmasters at Sosa. And in his passing, you see it. It's like, what should we do? Like what is that you have like I mean, this isn't a conversation I had with the family, but it is something that kind of like, man, that dude has so much to offer and so much to share and so many, like, he was vast and deep and rich. And talking about techniques, he was talking about breath control when you rap with your arms up versus having your arms down. Like, he was that micro with the shit.
Yeah.
um so anyway, it's just that as we think about the people that we love that have passed, we're in the face of this technology that can, how do you curate them in the face of these new technological pieces, right? And I think that that's an important ballot and a respectful conversation to kind of have, even if the decision is we're not going to do anything,
Right.
right?
Right.
Their career stopped when they passed away, and whatever was left in their estates is up for their estates to curate. But any new material won't be created, and these are the reasons why. But I think that conversation should be done in spheres where everybody's thinking with no biases, with no conspiracy theory, with no, like, with all the pieces and parts on the table.
Mhm.
Because I think people deserve to have their careers extended beyond their kind of living piece, and the technology allows to do it. And who should steward that?
Right.
Right? Like, should be in charge of managing that aspect of their career. And if artists choose to do it and not do it, that's fine. Like, that's what I said. I got endless loop, so you'll definitely be hearing Lupe until until the world blows.
30-25. You know what I mean? Hey, that's dope, man. Well, one thing, I mean, and all that is I think that we should be involved in that. Like I said, I'm from the Bay Area. I'm from Silicon Valley. I was around when a lot of technology was just in discussion. Like, what if we could see each other every day on the computer? Like in grade school, I was hearing kids talk about that. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think as hip hop, we should be at the forefront of these evolutions. And you know what I mean? Why not? Because hip hop is a foundational culture that we all are going to have some connection to. You know what I mean? So and so I agree with what you're saying basically, and I think we should have these conversations as we move forward. But in 2024, we had a lot of battles, and the main battle was Kendrick and Drake. Now, you
Which,
yourself, Mr. Fiasco, huh?
first of all, which I will not be speaking on in any way
Okay,
whatsoever.
that's fine.
I
I
was
don't
We
want
can talk about.
neither one of them niggas. But
no,
anyway,
no I had a
Oh,
question, but then I
if
had a
you have,
question more
yeah, then
so
you have.
about teaching students the components of rap. Like, there's a
Yeah,
question I had: what's the element of a good battle record? You know what I'm saying?
we
No
we can
matter what
talk
the
about we're not gonna talk about that battle.
No, no,
Leave
I'm
me
We
just
out
don't
of
saying.
have
that.
to talk about that.
I'm talking about
Listen,
any battle. I'm
listen
talking
to
about the anatomy of
you.
a battle
Out
record. What
any
constitutes
rapper
a construction
that
of a
wants to
battle
talk.
record? That's what I wanted to know. Not.
Um, let me give you another example about games. Right, I'm reading this book now. It's about the history of Dungeons and Dragons. Right, it's thick as shit like this thick. Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Um, and it's one like it's remember I was talking about video games, PS5 or Call of Duty. It's like PS5. It's like it's a history of Dungeons and Dragons, right? All this inner components, stuff like that. So I'll give you another game reference. There's a game that I play at MIT called right? It's the world's oldest board game. It's basically like checkers with dice, and it's like a race. You got to get all your pieces off the board before the other person, right? So I
right.
started a little forward and made games. Like I kind of brought it. I didn't single handedly bring this shit back, but I was a part of bringing it back to the surface and still working on it. But anyway, in like there's strategies and there's tactics. There's meta game. The meta that you play, like bluffing. There's all these other pieces that you can do, right? Even though it's a
Mm,
closed game, so it's not like you can play it any type of way you want. But there's ways and there's things you can focus on and things that you can't. You At the end of the day, the goal is to get all your shit off the board before the other person. It's to win, right? There's no
yep.
draws. So one of the strategies in that you start to kind of realize is one of the optimal, depending upon what position you're in, right? In the end game, is sometimes it's good to be slow, right? It's good to kind of be behind your opponent,
Mm.
right? Because being in, there's some about we always think like, oh, you have to be ahead, you have to be in front, you have to be ahead. That's positive, and when you back and you behind, that's a negative, right? That kind of sets us up. If you read Metaphors We Live By, that's orientational kind of metaphors, right?
Yes,
Those
sir.
those
Mm, yeah.
we prize upwardness versus downwardness, right? Because there's your brain is up here, so you bias up here versus your feet, even though if you don't have feet, like what's the point of having a brain, feet running from a bear type shit, right?
Right.
So sometimes it's about like actually position yourself to be behind the opponent. So the way that relates to me in battling and rapping is sometimes it's not about being super lyrical, right? It's not about being super technical. Um, it's about like identifying the things that your opponent might be overlooking or allowing your opponent to get ahead and ahead and ahead.
Yes. That's what
Have
I've
them
been saying.
having them thinking that they're in a position of power because they're relying on forwardness being a position of power or abundance being a position of power. But you recognize, going back to scarcity and abundance, there's a lot of power in scarcity because the quality that you're going to not infect, but you're going to insert into scarce positions is going to be way more intentional than having like a ton of shit, right?
Right.
And that
Hmm.
shit different scales. So it could be like a ton of songs. Like you're gonna drop 9 disc records back to back. Or it could be like, or 9 battle verses back to back. Or your verse just gonna be long as fuck. And you got 3 rounds and 6 rounds ready to go in whatever battle situation you're in, right? Depending on what league or
Right.
whatever. So there's something about like, yeah, you gotta fill all that space, and I can kind of guarantee, I don't care how good you are, and I know all of the rappers. It's a difference between doing a 16 and doing a whole album,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
If all you 16, you're gonna crush all them features. You're gonna Jada Kiss everybody, right? Right? Because you just do.
Right.
But when you got to take that album on, things get heavy. Things kind of get diluted. So there's something about that scarcity model that I'm not saying it works all the time, but from my relationship, and I'm gonna go back to me playing Earth. Whenever and then again, it depends on what's happening, right? Depending on the quality level of their relationship, your relationship to information about them, their relationship to information about you, and how they're able to execute that information and the timing and all these things. But I would always operate from a position of scarcity for the sake of the quality that I know I'm going to get in that scarce moment. I operate from positions of abundance when I know that I'm able to only when that abundance is real, and it has to be an abundance of quality. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Understood.
can be
Right. Uh-huh.
types of abundances, but I want an abundance of quality, which means I got 16 verses. Well, all them shits is killer, right?
Like if you're rapping about something that you are very familiar with, like
Mm,
you rapping about martial arts or somebody, if you rap about a subject you're super familiar with, you can come up with 16 16s and
mm,
it is going to be fire. You know what I
mm,
mean? Versus, but I believe that these battles, if done correctly, because there's a wrong way to do things in a right way, I believe these battles can be very constructive. Example, if I say I want to battle Lupe Fiasco, right?
mm,
Not because I'm disrespecting Lupe Fiasco, but because I respect Lupe to such a degree, I'm willing to show a display of skills to see if he can top that. Now,
mm,
now I think it becomes constructive because when I send my quote unquote diss, what people are going to hear is me rapping to the best of my ability to see if I am up to the standard of what Lupe could do. And that's
mm,
what I think these battles can be constructive. You know what I mean?
mm,
It doesn't always have to be destructive.
I don't. There's a difference between battling and competition. There's a difference between dissing and battle, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and what you just said is a little bit of I don't know about that. That you're gonna
Okay. I get that.
rap your best just because you're coming at me. That's not a guarantee, right?
Mhm.
Because there's other aspects depending on who you're going to compete against. If you're competing against someone, if you're just sharpening your sword with someone, like you're just like kind of having like a mock practice session, kind of like some,
Right.
jujitsu dojo versus
Exactly.
jujitsu competition versus jujitsu on the streets.
Mhm.
Um, this scene is jujitsu on the streets, right?
Right.
I don't really like that, right? I don't think there's any wins in that at all. And I think the wins that you get out of it are very hollow.
Right.
I This is just from a rapper standpoint. I'm not talking about culture. I'm just talking about or none of that shit. Selling
Mhm.
records. I'm not celebrity, increasing your fame. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just rapping. Like what is the optimal one-on-one, 1v1 situation where actually skill level will increase. You'll get what you're looking for, which is like you want to level up. I don't think
Right.
you get that. You get that in dissing, right?
Mhm.
And I don't think things like, except for a few people who actually have beef, but even that's a little put on. I think URL is more competitive. So if you take URL versus like dissing, like hit them up versus like, O Red versus Shotgun Suge or whatever, right?
I
Right.
got you.
In
Mhm.
that scenario, you'll get a leveling up, right? I don't think you get a leveling up with hit 'em ups, you know? And then I think and anything pre that. So like I always holler EO dub because in EO dub you can't even go at the other person. Like it's literally just like put my skill set, your skill set, period. Right.
Mhm.
Um so I think there's something about like you made to win a diss, and this is why I said I'm excuse me for being a little maybe visiting professor at Pendulum Inc. real quick for you, right?
Hey,
um,
hey, I'm gonna be in class when you show up anyway. So,
in
okay.
a diss scenario, you don't have to be your best to win.
I
So
got you.
that's where
Yeah,
that oxymoron comes up. You actually might dig into your weaker parts
true,
because,
true. But
because
if the intent is to actually be a better version, like again, it's all about the intent. If I'm
you
going in with the intent of
yeah
leveling up, you see that's a little different. It's not hit them up anymore.
you
Now it's
won't do
just
you
you know what I
won't
mean.
do that you can't do that in the dissing space. It sounds
Mm,
counterintuitive, but trust me, there's no letter E. Okay,
there's no
you can't
letter E. Okay.
you can't do that in the dissing space, right? You can do that, but you can do that. You can do that in kind of the mock dissing space. That's why I brought up URL, because they're dissing each other, but
Right.
the intention isn't to actually get this person killed, right? Or to hurt
Right.
this person, or to like destroy this person's career. That's not what that is, right?
Mm.
And the level of competition, and there's filters to that because everybody can't get on URL, right? It is very locked of who's there and who's not, and it's more about who's not there than who's there. And shout out to everybody that's there, right?
Right.
So I think you have to be very like intentional about being intentional about leveling up and where you choose to do that and who you choose to do that with, because the intuition is that, oh yeah, I would just going at Lupe, to use your example, you coming at me, you think that that's going to give you your best thing, right? But
Right.
you're focusing on one aspect of me, right? You're not taking in consideration the meta narrative around it. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to just leverage my fan base against you.
Mm.
You know what
Got
I'm
it.
saying? Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to look at those other parts of the game that ain't got nothing to do with rapping or your skill sets. I'm going to focus on other things that give me the advantage, which you're, again, like I said, that when you play an or even with bringing it, looping it all back together, pun intended, with this endless loop stuff, is like these are things that people overlook, or they technologies that they take for granted. So to you, it's invisible,
Mm.
right? I feel something that you're expecting it to be a bunch of bars, and it's like, no, I'm gonna hit you with a bunch of,
Right.
listen, I'm not even gonna rhyme, right?
Right.
Look, I'm not even gonna rhyme, and I'm a freestyle, right?
Like why? Why are you gonna do me like that?
Right?
You know,
See how, like,
I
oh
got you
shit,
though.
you know, it disrupts whatever your plan is, and that's why I
That's
think, and it may seem like, oh, it like, oh, Lupe capping, he just saying some shit right now, but it's like, no, that's how I genuinely think. Like I genuinely look at, like, if I'm trying to level myself up, there's better ways to level up, period. I don't think that the competitive space is the optimal space to level up, to be honest. I think
mm. Okay.
it's you riding through constraints where you level up, challenging yourself in your own space to develop your own kind of comfort level, and then you go out and you present it to other artists and then get feedback.
Mm.
I think that's
Right.
the best level up.
No,
I don't,
that's a good point. You know, that makes sense too. I gotta agree with you. Yeah. Fire.
I,
Just a
one more
question, you
question.
know.
I had one
for
more
sure.
question. One more
I,
question. About Chicago, right? And I wanted to know about, you, Common, the Brat, Twister,
mm,
Kanye. There's a future generation, King Vaughn, all those guys, you know what I'm saying? Dirk. What's the future of Chicago's hip hop scene? I think Chicago's often overlooked. We got towns like Memphis, Houston, Atlanta's already been known, New York, LA, Miami, but Chicago is kind of get lost in the shuffle when we talk about hip hop. So what's the future? What do you see? Any new artists bubbling out of Chicago that we should be aware of according to hip hop? What's the future of the hip hop scene in Chicago?
I don't know. That's
Okay.
the right answer.
Okay.
I could theorize, and my theory would kind of be in what the question I would ask back. You take it rhetorical, you can answer it. Like, at what scale are you talking about?
Yeah, the scale I'm
You,
talking about is that there was a different. Like I'm a little older, so the Chicago sound I knew was Twister. Then you came along, it was Kanye, and it was the Brat, it was Common, and then it kind
mm,
of shifted to a different sound. You know what I'm saying? When Chief Keef came out, and then you had Vaughn, and you had Dirk, and then you had that kind of G Herbo and those guys like that. Are there elements of hip hop in Chicago that's just a remnants of the past, or it was the folks that were lyrical with it and it had a different aesthetic or different approach to music as opposed to what
got,
we're getting now out of Chicago?
got it. So aesthetically,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
That so saying that Common is a particular aesthetic, the Twister was a particular aesthetic of Chicago, Bump J is a particular expression aesthetic of Chicago, and then you can kind of classify that as proto-classical, post-classical era, whatever you want to call it, right? And then you have
Mm.
the drill, and
right.
then drill aesthetic, eliminate content, eliminate the other things, just that aesthetic, and then kind of like what's next. Um, again, I think it's going to be like, what is the new technology that this next group is going to embrace?
Right.
What is the economics and the circumstances of the city, even as the city kind of unevenly develops? Chicago is on the rise, you know. So what is going to be the mental outlook and the conceptual framework of this next kind of high school, the kids that are either going into high school right now, or the kids that are about to graduate from high school in Chicago, right? Like,
Right.
what is the kind of um, tastes gonna be? What are their subject matters that are going to be important to them? What is going to be the language? And then also, what is the technology that's going to be made available to them that they're going to like commandeer? So you think of like example, like you think of drill kind of, it was million view YouTube videos,
Right.
right? It was the ability to kind of shoot videos quick and dirty, fast, with a high level of kind of video editing, right? With that kind of like that pause the video, and you hear the actual sound of what they're doing on site. You like pause the track, then you hear people in the back at the actual video shoot. That recording
Right.
feels, editing things like that. That's all technology, right?
Right.
What is going to be those new things and new features that are available to them? What are going to be the new applications that they're going to be using on their phones? How is Google or Meta glasses gonna, when they're going to be in this position where they don't even need phones to do all the things that we're doing on the phone right now? What is going to be the political circumstance when Trump kind of comes in, and what are people going to need and what are they going to demand? Are you going to get kind of rebellion? Are you going to kind of get like consolidation? When you think about like how Chicago is very much so at the forefront of kind of like immigration. A lot of the immigrants went to Chicago, and there was like people responded to it in various ways, right? Some positive, some negative. So it's kind of like, what is the cannon fodder, and should we wait, until all that stuff kind of lands, so that whoever comes out of that, even if Twista kind of comes back through these new kind of scapes, and then he that captures and is infused with all of those different layers, right? And it might be twisted again, right? Or it could be, as you see, a lot of drill they're literally dying off. Rest in peace, hurts my heart. Or getting taken out of the literally taken off the streets and things like that. So will those guys and gals even be around to participate in that next wave of kind of technological, sociological events and advancements?
Right.
Or will the kids who are able to stay out the way, and you're going to get more people in the line of Chance, or in the line of Saba, or in the line of No Name, etc. I would say the elephant in the room. So those are my pieces. Kind of unanswered answers, more questions than answers, but answers
I
in
get
a
what
number.
you're saying. Yeah.
But the elephant in the room is like, Lupe Fiasco is a professor at MIT, a Chicago rapper, right? And he's also a professor at Johns Hopkins. And this isn't just me kind of patting myself on the back, but like
But it's
that
true. Yeah.
Chicago hip hop expanding. Like, we're moving into this world. Kanye moving into the fashion game, and all, those things are, to me, those still count as like
Right.
hip hop and what it's going to look like in the future for Chicago. So, I'm doing my part. I think that in terms of, I know what you're asking, particularly about music and the aesthetic. Um, I think we'll still put out artists, and I think it's just a cycle. I think it's
Right.
like one coast
Well,
at the scene.
Samurai was one of the best projects of last year.
Yeah,
It
for sure.
was.
Yeah.
Now I think you were focusing more with the flow there, because there was a jazz aesthetic with the concept. You got Amy Winehouse being a battle rapper, so that made you loosen up a little bit with the flow. What I'm saying is there anything else that you got coming now? Skulls, Mister.
You,
Okay, I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna
now you, now
I'm
you
gonna leave Skulls alone. Okay, but Lupe, I mean, come on, man. I mean, you out here, you got all the infinity zones.
Hey,
Come on, my guy.
listen, keep it professional. Don't fan out. We was doing good up until lock it in.
Salute, salute.
What to be continued, man. I want to come in and take over the show, but I definitely want to chime in and at least just lurk. And if y'all had comments or questions, I
We
hopefully that.
appreciate you. We appreciate
Appreciate it, man. Good luck with the show. I hope it
it.
builds and carries. Good luck with more stuff that you're doing at Pendulum Inc. And yeah, come visit. Come visit me at MIT. The door is open. The invite is open, as well as Johns Hopkins. You know, come up when we start that program in fall 2025. And I'll just leave with like,
Congrats.
you know, we're rap. Stop it. I'll, did you say rap? Leave with
No,
some rap.
no, I said congrats. I said congrats. I said
Leave.
congrats.
The Johns Peabody Institute Hip Hop Degree Program. The deadline for applications is January 24th, so there's still time. If anybody's out there interested in pursuing a career in music and wants to come to a music conservatory, and maybe Johns Hopkins is in your framework, to talk about like tuition, because I know people think like, oh, you're gonna. This is another thing I kind of want to talk about with schools. Like, yo, I'm gonna spend $300,000 for some rap degree. Just so you know, if you qualify, your financial situation qualifies. The Peabody Institute will pay you. You'll have no cost to be at Peabody, and that's the same thing at MIT too. A lot of people don't know that. Like if you're as long as you got the grades at MIT, you get a full ride. Not even like a scholarship. Like they'll just pay for all your shit because they're more interested in your mind than what's in your pockets, right?
Mm.
So if that was a concern for you, like man, or even if you're not interested in you participating, you just have that kind of critique or that question. Just know like the Peabody, and they just started this I think this year, and going forward, that regardless of your financial situation, you as long as you apply and make it through the auditions and you got the chops to be at the school, they'll pay for all your shit. So you don't have to. That's not even an issue anymore, and it's been like that at MIT for years. But yeah, the deadline is January 25th. You know, 24th. Appreciate you all. Hopefully, I answered some questions, and I'm gonna
You
let y'all
did.
get shit, man.
No doubt. I appreciate you chapping in with us,
You
man.
did.
No doubt.
Thank
Anytime.
you.
No
We'll
doubt,
check
brother.
in. See y'all soon.
Yeah.
Peace. See you
Yeah,
soon,
sir.
brother.
Hey,
Peace.
salute to you, man. Moving the culture forward. Appreciate that, man. For real.
All right.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
that was
I
that was an
yeah.
interesting night. You know, we had the
Yeah.
source. We had the source coming and talk about what he's doing in the educational space. And I think that's good. I think what he said was kind of pointed, right? You know, when I asked him about Chicago hip hop, it's an elevated space. Common is still doing his thing, you know, with Pete Rock musically. Is he got winner? Because I saw Common. Does he have all four? Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony? He's he
my
got?
first thought my first thought was to say yeah, but I may have to look that up. But
He might
I
be close
mean,
to he might be
should.
close to EGOT, but he's written books, he's been in
Yeah.
movies, he's been on Broadway, he's out with Pete, Auditorium 1 out now. And then you got, Lupe that's really getting to the education space and the technology space. A lot of interesting nuggets here, a lot of things. I kind of want to let him speak and kind of get it off. We can kind of dissect it later, but
Yeah.
I still think, and I think he made a distinction about artists coming together with some kind of understanding of how to posthumously putting out music. How would they do that moving forward? But I think the ones that have already passed, I think we gotta let it go, because I think some of that Escape album by Michael Jackson, and I think there was another Michael Jackson album that didn't really sound like Michael. So I think they've been using AI for a minute. Because those last two Michael Jackson records
Yeah.
that came out, that didn't sound like Michael Jackson to me. So we gotta be very careful how we treat artists that have passed. You know what I mean?
But I mean, again, this is why this spot is important, and the education is important too. Because speaking on an album like that, or someone that has already passed on, if the family has control of that, well, then we can trust what comes out of that is going to be something constructive. Like, let's say if somebody used an AI to make Nipsey records. Well, if they got to get the sign off from his brother's not going to sign off on nothing that's goofy. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So this is why we have to be at the table, so the proper channels are authorized by the proper people. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah.
Right. It's all good. It's all good, man. But that was an interesting interview. More to come. Nappy Roots the
Yes,
interview
sir.
next week. That's dropping. So we interview we on a roll here, man. We had Absol, we had Lupe, we got Nappy Roots next week.
Oh, don't
We
even
tr-
worry about that,
we
man.
trying to get
Don't
Manny
even worry
Fresh. We trying to get
about
Manny Fresh in the building. We had Pete Rock. You know, we trying to get Manny Fresh. We got Master Ace we working on. You know I'm working on that Lotto interview. You know I'm working on that.
that. Well,
That's
all right. Well, let
that's
me
already
know.
been scheduled. That's already been scheduled. You know what I
Well,
mean?
let me know when you want to do the Master Ace thing, so I could also reach out simultaneously. So it's both of us reaching out.
Let's do the Master Ace interview sometime in March maybe, because I think we're gonna
Okay.
pull up on South by Southwest. We're gonna go to South by Southwest and do a lot of interviews there. Shit, man, you
Okay.
know.
Well, let me know when you're going out there, so I gotta jump on a bird and come catch y'all
Well,
out
yeah,
there.
well, I hit you offline and let's let you know what we're doing. But we're gonna be in South by Southwest, so that's happening. And yeah, man, tonight was fun. I had another question though. Did we get through all our topics? Because I know we've been on here for a minute.
Well, we kind of did, because even though we were just talking to Lupe about his endeavors with the school and AI, we did kind of cover other things in that process. So, as far as the battle things, I kind of covered that with him. The only other thing that I didn't really have nothing else. Sidebar. Um, this weekend I didn't really know what to listen to. I've been busy all week, so when it came to the weekend, I was like, "What am I gonna listen to now?" But I found out that Federal Star dropped the Soul album. I know that may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I grew up on Onyx. His last record, Jazzmatic. If there are any Illmatic heads out there, you like Illmatic because of what? Because of certain techniques used in the chops, in the sample, right? So if you go listen to that or Jazzmatic, or you listen to the Soul album from Fredro Starr, you're listening to certain kind of chops. He produced all his own beats, but you're listening for certain kind of way the samples are chopped. That's all I'm gonna say. All right.
Mm.
So that's what I'm gonna listen to tomorrow.
All
You know what
right,
I
all
mean?
right. Hey, they said they wanted us to get Nas on the show. I think we can make that happen. And I think we can make that happen. I think we can make that happen.
Uh, I'm
For
down to try.
for
I'm down
poets
to
and
try.
rhymers, she's been rocking with us for a very long time. She asked for Nas, and I'm a man that likes to give people what they want. We'll
My
make
thing
that
is
happen.
this:
We'll make it happen.
only Nas can be a dope rapper here. No one else is dope. And
No, no,
we gotta get out of the mentality that only Nas can get props. There are
no,
other
no,
dope rappers besides one guy.
no.
So
I
when
just
we
think the
have
people. I just
Lupe
think the
on here,
people.
or you know,
I
Axel,
just think people want to see Nas on on the show, and I think
I
we want
take
to.
issue with Nas over not doing interviews, and I'll be straight up about that. It's respectful. It's not. I could never be disrespectful, but I take issue with never being able to see Nas, like ever. You never see him. You never hear from him. You never know what he's doing. I mean, you know what he's doing, but you never see Nas. I
Yeah.
take issue with that
Well,
only because of this. Does Nas need interviews? No. Does Nas owe us anything? Absolutely not. But people love Nas. Like they genuinely love him. So the fact that people want to see him, why not just come out and just do the interviews or play that game? Not everybody is loved. So if you are loved, why not just say what's up? That's the only thing I got to say about that. You know what I mean? Respectfully.
we'll
You know
get
what I
him
mean?
in. We'll get him in here. We'll get I want to get Ye in here too. We'll get Ye in here. We just who y'all wants to pull up? Who y'all wants to pull up? I want to interview 50. I want there's a lot of folks I want to chop it up with, man. I want to chop it up with 50. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
We'll
I
get
mean,
Uncle Murder.
as far as interviews go, I'll let y'all know that I'm planning a lot for this year. I haven't done one so far this month, and I don't have one for maybe one for next month. But after that, I have a lot, and the purpose behind my interviews, though, or interviews that I put together or we try to put together, I'm not trying to just fan out like, oh, you're so great. I'm asking specific questions that have to do with the forward progression of the culture. So what you saw today, which I didn't plan, but it just happened, it was a discussion about the forward movement of the culture, because that's what I think is or the type of interviews that I would like to have. You know what I mean?
Right. And
So
speaking of that big Ron and that big Mama Big Lotto interview, that's gonna break the internet. I'm telling you. If y'all thought that the Pete Rock and the Absol interview was dope, the Big Ron and Big Lotto interview is gonna be crazy. Crazy. But we got a special show on Wednesday. Monday mic check. I'll also check out those videos that Mike's been dropping, those little mini mic checks. The one for Nas and Hit Boy talking about the Hip Hop DX, hip hop producer, rapper duo combo, producer combo article that they posted, and also the Tweaker record with LeAngelo Ball. But
yeah,
Mic Check Monday, that's gonna be dope. And then we're gonna have a special show on Wednesday. We want to take a look at the year 2000. The year 2000, 2000, 2000. We're gonna talk about what was big in the year 2000, 25 years ago, right? What was popping? What were the biggest songs? What were the biggest artists? What were the biggest albums? The best stuff. So we're gonna go back in time on Wednesday, the year 2000, 25 years later. Where was you at? What was he wearing? What was he watching? What was we listening to? What was popping? So yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
now
That's what we're gonna do.
that's fire. 2000. They thought like a Busta Rhymes intro. They thought the world was gonna end in 2000. Like, oh no, it's all over. It's but that'll be fire though.
No doubt, no
Yeah.
doubt. So check in with us on Monday, Mike Check. We got some other stuff dropping. Nappy Roots interview next week. What else we got? Year 2000, Mac Miller drops next week. And make sure you hit like and subscribe. Go to www.accordingtohiphop.com. Buy a shirt, buy a cup. Support us. Get us to 20,000. Get us to 100,000 so we can have our festival and make it happen, man. So we appreciate you.
Sir.
Enjoy your families. If you're in LA, be safe. Love on your families. Trust in
Yes.
God. Peace.
Yes, sir. Peace, y'all. Have a good weekend.